Hey Who fans, welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
Hi, welcome to episode 196.
Oh yes.
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension?
Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
The trouble with time travel is one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear. And it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
Great men are forged in fire. It is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame.
I'm the Doctor. This is Rose Tyler. She's my +1. Is that all right?
That would be me.
Hello. Surprise!
Boom. Etc.
I'm the Doctor. Do everything I tell you, don't ask stupid questions, and don't wander off.
How can you kid this? I don't like the colour.
Howdy do, Who fans. Hope you've all had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Yeah. Apologies if I sound a bit husky, a little bit coming to you from the throes of man flu.
And you do sound a bit groggy.
A little bit. Not the best timing.
Touch of the old cosmic angst.
Exactly that, mate. Yeah. So the man flu has taken hold, but I'm fighting it. I'm fighting it hard.
You need to. You've got to get yourself geared up because we've got a very busy weekend coming.
Oh, crikey.
You need to get yourself well.
Indeed.
Yeah, we've got LFCC this weekend. It's finally upon us.
Finally.
Yeah.
It's sweltering here in the UK still.
It's unprecedented, actually. I know I know it's boring to talk about the weather, but this is something else that we're experiencing at the minute. And it's like we're just not used to this heat. And it's been like this for quite some time. And there's no end in sight. So, yeah, we are roasting here in the UK.
Indeed. It's about 27 where we are in the south of the UK today. I think the next 2 days are going to be killer because I think it's like 33 or something tomorrow and then drops down to a very cool 30 on Friday. But fortunately for Comic-Con at the weekend, in London at least, it's going to be a very chilly 25. So not too bad. But I tell you what, mate, this is what we were saying last week about the venue, the Olympia. Where
I did think of that, yeah.
It's not the coolest of places.
No.
Even when there isn't 1 million people in there. I don't think the aircon is too amazing. So although it's going to be 25, it's probably going to feel like 35 inside.
Oh, it's going to be baking. I mean, last year on the Saturday, it was really busy. And I remember it was just a sweat box. It was just so hot in there. Mm-hmm. And it was nowhere near as hot as it is this year. It's going to be unbearable. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it, but I also can't wait to sort of for it to be over. I'm kind of looking forward to looking back on it and getting out of there because it's going to be, I think. Yeah.
There was I was thinking about this and somebody tweeted me earlier when I said a big applause needs to go out to Showmasters for landing this amount of Doctor Who people this year because they announced Stephen Moffat earlier or last night.
Yes, yeah, the mothball. Yeah,
which is really cool. And somebody said, I'm really jealous that I can't get to go. And they said, has LFCC always been this epic? And it got me thinking going back a few years. For some reason, it's one of those sort of cursed, it used to be one of those cursed events for the weather, I mean, because I remember going back to, I don't know, I'm just picking a year out of the air here, but something like 2012, 2013, or even 2011. I remember for a few years on the bounce, it was always rainy or it was nowhere near as hot as this.
Yeah.
And then I remember going back a few years, not as late as that, I think maybe sort of 2014 or something like that, 2015. The first year I noticed it was walking past the queue in the morning. It must have been about 9:30, 9:45. And walking past the queue that now goes round the block and round the block another time. Yeah. And in this sweltering heat, not as hot as it is this week, but and there was people in cosplay absolutely sweaty. It must have been.
I was just thinking about the people in cosplay are going to be absolutely. They'll have lost a stone by the time they've done that weekend, won't they?
It must be horrible. I mean, great in one way because a lot of people put a lot of effort into these elaborate cosplays, and because they are becoming a lot more sort of over the top in a good way. So when you see like these people, especially in some of sort of the Japanese anime kind of big, huge suits that they wear, and even just simple things like people wearing Predator suits or Alien or, that sort of thing, that must be so difficult to function after 10 minutes of being in that heat. So
there's a Predator guy, isn't there? I've seen him at a few of them, and he looks like the real thing. It's an unbelievable cosplay that guy's got.
It's bang on, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it also got me thinking about Comic-Con and how, and this is really, I'm not sort of cutting my nose off to spite my face, but I remember going back to those years, sort of 2014, for an example, when you used to rock up on the day and pay a $5 to get in. Not much of a queue. Yeah. You pay a $5 to get in, and you decided as you were walking through the door who you were going to queue up and get a picture with or something like that.
Yeah.
But now it's because it's such a huge thing and it's big money and it's, we are sort of edging ever closer to, I wouldn't say rivaling the big ones like San Diego Comic-Con that we've just had or anything like that, but it's definitely going in that direction where you literally have to treat it like a sort of military operation now. You have to, first of all, you decide you're going for the full 3 days, probably not. If you're like hardcore, then you book the Friday off and you go then. Otherwise, it's like, do I go both days, Saturday and Sunday, or do I just go one or the other? Right, I'm going on both days. Who's going to be there? Right, they're only going to be there on Sunday, but these other people are there the whole weekend. You wait for the schedule from Showmasters, right? Their photo blocks that time, this other person's that time, and you plan it all out. And it's really is a bit of it's like a general sort of directing from up on high. It's like, right, let's get into action and get this booked. But it can be a bit stressful, mate. You said earlier in the week, didn't you, that you found it a bit sort of meh?
Yeah, I was just like that. They put the schedule up for the photo shoots and trying to make head nor tail of it, and I was just like, it was stressing me out of my box. It really was. I was just because I was like, you're right. You do have to kind of have to plan it pretty much before you go now. Like the times that they, you got to know where you've got to be at certain times. Otherwise, you miss your shoots and that's it. Your money's gone. There's no getting your money back from these things. So, yeah, I was going through it trying to plot my times of where I needed to be on what days and stuff, and it was pretty hard going. I mean, it was like a lot of the Doctor Who guests clashed this year, and I mean, the schedule to me looks disastrous. I don't know why they've done it like they have. I said to you, I'm sure there's reasons for it, but a lot of the Doctor Who guests are clashing this year. Like on the Sunday, Peter Capaldi, Kristen Eccleston, and Matt Smith, all of theirs overlap and clash, and it's. I can see it being chaos, but I've got to say, just going back to the guests they've announced this year, comparing it to last year, we got a lot more, I would say, classic Doctor Who guests, and they were a lot cheaper as well. I know me and you picked up quite a few, great little autographs, and they were sort of £10, £15 each, and it was nice. This year, they've really gone towards the newer series, which is great because me and you have been calling for this for ages. Obviously, that means an increase in price. That's to be expected, and we've already spoke at length about the high prices this year. But it is nice to see us getting the new series guests. Every time I moan about the prices or whatever, I sort of think, well, you've got to have a compromise. I mean, we'd all like them to be cheaper, but I do like the fact that we're at least starting to get the new series people doing conventions again over here. So, but yeah, they've done very well. It is, if you're not a Doctor Who fan, you're probably a bit bemused by a lot of the guests this year at LFCC. I've seen a few people saying that, like, not another Doctor Who announcement. But for us Doctor Who fans, they've really pulled some great guests out of the bag this year. I mean, Matt Smith for me is an absolute. I'm so glad he's added. I'm really hoping he doesn't cancel last minute or anything because. Yeah, they've done well. They've done good.
They have done, absolutely. And it's a shame that that McCoy cancelled because it would have sort of rounded off the...
yeah, it would actually.
The string of Doctors that they managed to get. But
it would have been all the surviving Doctors apart from Davison and Tennant, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would just be those. If McCoy hadn't cancelled, it would have been all of them, bar those two. Yeah,
yeah, it would have been amazing. And I've got a feeling in in me that they would have tried to get Tennant as well. They absolutely would have approached him, but for whatever reason, he's either busy or whatever. But can you imagine the photo shoot with Eccleston, Tennant, Smith, and Capaldi? That would have been.
Oh wow! Yeah, I know.
That would have been a belter, wouldn't it? Very expensive, like £500, I suppose. But
but yeah, probably yeah. It would be a belter to have on your wall, wouldn't it? Have you ever been tempted to cosplay?
I have indeed.
As Tennant.
As Tennant, yeah. I did it a couple of times when, this is going back a few years before I started the podcast, but it was never in public. It was only sort of at sort of fancy dress, sort of birthday parties and so on.
Right.
I did manage to pick up a brown suit. It didn't have the blue pinstripes, but it was a brown suit, the same colour. And I had the same shirt and tie, and I had the Converse on, and the hair all sort of spiky and stuff. And it did look pretty good because in the photos, you couldn't really notice it wasn't a pinstripe suit. So
yeah,
so I've nailed it for a little bit, and I have thought about it quite a bit since. I've been, every few months I go onto this website called Magnoli Clothiers.
I know them, yeah.
Yeah.
They do all the ties, all the 10th Doctor ties and all that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they've, as far as I know, they're the one of only 2 or 3 companies or people that do I'd say sort of 95% sort of screen accurate Tennant costume, because you can get the big thick coat properly made, and you have to send them like your proper fitting sizes and all the rest of it, and they'll make it custom for you. And you can buy the screen accurate ties, like you said, and the shirt and everything. So every few months I jump on there and think, shall I, shan't I? Shall I bite the bullet? But it is quite pricey. That's the only thing. I think for the coat and the suit, it's probably around £700.
Ooh.
So the coat's £500, I think, on its own. So, yeah, you have to sort of go in, sort of all in, committed to it, to spend that amount of money. So I've been tempted. And I also want to do a Captain Jack cosplay as well.
That'd be good. I can imagine you in that, actually, yeah.
I thought about that a few times. I'm not sure how Captain Jack would look with a beard, but same for the 10th Doctor, a bearded 10th Doctor, I'm not sure. But have you, mate, have you ever thought of...
I have, yeah, because I like my Sylvester McCoy jumper, the question mark one. I like it, and it still fits. So I have been tempted to go as him, and he's quite easy as well, because once you got the jumper on and the white shirt, you're kind of there, really. You just need some sort of grey or checkered trousers. He's not too difficult to do, and he's got the cool sort of shoes and stuff. And I've got the official 7th Doctor scarf, the Paisley one from Lavazzi. Yeah, I've got that. So I've kind of got his costume all there, really. But it is the heat factor. I can see me wearing it, but just being so uncomfortable and sweltering, and also I've got this sort of OCD thing about like if I was dressed as say last year when I met Benedict Cumberbatch, I wouldn't want to be in a photo shoot with Benedict dressed as the 7th Doctor. It's like, no, I just want to be in something that's sort of neutral, So I don't know, something about being dressed as a certain Doctor. So, or I don't know, do you know what I mean? I always want it to relate to the photo that I'm in. And so if I was in cosplay, I don't know, it does sort of limit me in who I'd want to meet. So yeah, but I like the idea of sort of being part of that whole cosplay thing. I don't know what convention it was last year, but do you remember that great cosplay of Alpha Centauri? The picture was doing the rounds on Twitter and stuff like that. And I'd love to see an Alpha Centauri at LFCC. I doubt we will, but But yeah, I know I'd love to be part of the whole cosplay thing. But it's just like the heat factor really puts me off. I normally just wear a t-shirt, and I'm even going to wear shorts this year. So I'm going to be very casual this year, and I normally make a sort of half-hearted attempt by wearing one of my Tom Baker's scarves or something. I mean, I normally put something on to say, hey, I'm a Who fan, but I think this year I'm going to go very minimal because of the heat. I probably will wear my scarf though, because of when I get my photo shoot with Ingrid Oliver, I want to be wearing the multicoloured scarf.
Crikey, mate.
But I'm only going to wear it for the photo shoot.
Oh, right,
so I'm literally going to put it on and take it straight off as soon as I come out of the shoot. Yeah, I just want it in the photo with it, really.
Right,
it would have been nice to have had the McCoy top as well, because Osgood did do the whole everything, didn't she? But but no, I'm afraid cosplaying is going to be to a minimum for me.
Hold on a minute, though. Hold on a minute.
Hold on.
I remember watching one of your early videos on the Geeks Handbag channel.
Oh, yes.
When you you went to a meetup in London and you were cosplaying as Troughton.
Second Doctor.
That looked
That's
good.
Right. Yeah. That was an amazing meetup. That one. So I think that may have been one of the first ever cosplay things I did. That was incredible because it was just a cosplay convention and everyone met up near the Strand and we all walked across London, across the bridge to the South Bank, and that was an incredible. But I mean, gosh, I felt like I sort of made an effort. But then I got there and saw what people were wearing, and they would just look like the real thing. Like they had Cybermen there. They were just absolutely 100%, screen accurate Cybermen. They looked like the real thing. And people were dressed as the Doctor, and they'd got the proper trousers and the proper and I felt like, oh, I've just put on a black jacket and put a handkerchief in it, and I thought that'd be good enough. And but it didn't matter because it was such a good atmosphere. But that really sort of brought home how much effort a lot of people put into cosplay, and it was incredible. Yeah, gosh, that's going back. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, it was real good. Early on. Yeah.
So, other than getting excited or stressed or a bit of both about LFCC, you been up to anything else, buddy?
No, actually, just kind of relates to what we were just saying. I had a birthday meetup at a Doctor Who location at the weekend, which was really good fun. So I love Shad Thames, where they filmed Resurrection of the Daleks, the Fifth Doctor story, because when you watch that story, it's all damp and wet and grey, and it was all derelict, which is why they filmed it. You go there now. It's all cleaned up. It's all nice, bright bars and restaurants. It's a lovely place to go. So I decided real last minute, actually, that I was like, I know. I'd been out for the Westminster convention like 2 weeks before, and we'd had such a good time down the pub. I was just sat at home, and I was like, I need to see those guys again. I need to have a meet up. It's my birthday next week. I'm going to organise it at a Doctor Who location. It was just really like spontaneous last night. So I managed to get most of the people together. Unfortunately, you couldn't make it because you were out house hunting and stuff. But it was a great meetup, and I just love being on that location. It's cool. Something about it. But tying it into what you were just saying, I really, really wanted to wear my Fifth Doctor jumper. It's the official Lavarzi one. I never wear it. I bought it. It's been hanging in the wardrobe. I've been waiting for the perfect time, and I was thinking, this is it. This is the perfect time to wear it. On location, I thought I'd get a picture of me in front of Tower Bridge wearing it, just where the TARDIS landed. Brilliant. And it was hanging on the door till the morning when I left, and I looked at it and I just thought, I'm gonna boil if I wear that. I'm just literally, because it was so hot. So I didn't do it, and I just kept looking at it, hanging up, thinking, "Go on, man, do it, get it on." But I every time I thought about being on the tube wearing it or whatever, I just knew that, And to be fair, I made the right decision. It was baking.
Oh yeah, you would have.
I would have. No, I would have absolutely been. It would have destroyed me. But yeah, I did have it hanging on the door, ready to wear. So that's all I've really done. Really, just I know you've been to that location before. It's a cool place to go.
It's cool down there.
And we had a good time. So yeah, it was all good.
Good stuff.
I haven't really been doing anything else. I've even missed the McCoy years on Twitch, which I'm really gutted about. I don't know why. It's just been a sort of busy week, and I haven't had Twitch on much this week. But they finished, I assume now. It's all done and dusted on Twitch, I think.
Been and gone, mate. Yeah.
Which is sad, but
yeah, it's been a very successful thing, though. I would say, the whole sort of concept. I remember when they first announced it, the entire sort of concept, if you like, that's not anything new. Sort of communal watching of stuff, but it was the fact that it was all classic Doctor Who that seemed sort of not out of place, but a bit kind of, okay, that's very brave, But no, I think it's been a great success. The getting sort of lots of people chatting about Who and watching classic Doctor Who, but potentially many people for the first time.
Yeah,
so that's really cool, and I just think it's been a great thing to have happened, and I just wonder what they're going to do next. If they're going to do potentially watching everything from Rose onwards in the sort of run up to the new series starting.
Cool. Yeah,
that might be cool. But yeah, I've only seen a couple of them. I only watched a couple of the McCoy ones, but no, I thought that was a great thing. That Who on Twitch, yeah.
Oh, me too, mate. I mean, I remember when you first read it out on the news section of the podcast, and I was like, I'd never heard of Twitch. It's like, what's this? And you said at the time, it's a real unlikely platform for Classic Who. So it's brilliant that it's been so popular. And I mean, when I've sat watching it myself, I've been looking through the comments, and clearly a lot of those people were watching certain stories for the first time, because there were some people saying, oi, no spoilers, I don't want to know. And I was thinking, so this is really introducing new people to stories they won't have seen. And you could tell from a lot of the comments as well how much they were enjoying it. So yeah, absolutely. I just think it's great, and I'm glad it's been a success. I think it's probably taken them by surprise, and it's good to let the BBC know. Oh, right, okay, well, Classic Who, people like it, do they? It's good, isn't it?
It is cool, and we had the whole London 1965 thing that became
great, actually.
Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? And and that was born out of fans, loving Hartnell and loving that particular era and that thing. So.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Otherwise, mate, I think we've been relatively quiet.
Yeah. You've just been dosing up on man flu pills.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or whatever. Lemsips.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And on that note, let's do some news. Escape rooms.
Yes, now then.
You heard of this before?
No. This is going to be another one of those things where I'm just an old, out of touch fogey. Go on, tell me, what are these? Because I'm really intrigued by this bit of news. I asked my partner this morning, what are escape rooms? I don't know what they are, so tell me, what's it about?
So, escape rooms are a sort of social event or a work team building event thing. They sort of split these into two. It's run by a company called Escape Hunt. And what happens is you go into a themed room, and they have them in sort of various cities around Europe. And there's loads in the UK. There's about 7 or 8 different cities that they do these in.
Yeah.
And what will happen is, I can't remember how many people go into a room, but essentially they'll go into a room and you'll get a brief about what you need to do. So, as an example, there's an escape room called Our Finest Hour. And what that is, you have, I think it's at least 2 people. So it's 2 to 6 people in this particular room. And just to give you, this is only an example. So the blurb for the escape room Our Finest Hour is, you step into 1942 when the world is at war. The Nazis have developed a series of devastating new superweapons that could obliterate Britain. As MI6 top agents, you've been chosen to find and destroy these fiendish inventions before they destroy us. So the latest news from HQ is that the superweapons are primed and ready, so you have exactly 1 hour to discover their location and destroy them and save Britain. So you get shoved into a room, and then you have an objective, and and you achieve that objective by working together as a team to sort of solve clues, and you have to sort of solve the mission, or as a metaphor, escape from the room within a certain time frame. And like I said, there are different themes. So that there's a samurai one. It's set in ancient Japan. There's this Finest Hour one. There's a couple more. So what BBC Studios have done is they've teamed up with Escape Hunt, and they're doing a Doctor Who escape room.
Oh, okay.
And there are no details at the moment. The only thing that we know about it, so Escape Hunt have said they're very excited to announce that in partnership with BBC Studios, they'll be launching the Doctor Who-themed live escape games at Escape Hunt sites across the UK. The awesome games will be available to play in Bristol from December this year, and then they'll roll it out to other sites early 2019. And you can sign up to receive an email. So on the website, escapehunt.com/Doctor Who, you can sign up to the mailing list and get an email when they first announce tickets to go on sale. So essentially, and you can see why they do it for team building for companies as well, because it gets people to work together and solve clues and solve stuff in order to, get it done within the time frame. And we have a little bit of blurb as well from, so the Matt Way, who works at BBC Studios, have said, it's been a long-term ambition of the team to bring Doctor Who-themed escape rooms to the public. Our main role is to continually extend the fans' enjoyment of the brand, and so to be announcing 6 new live entertainment games across the country is something really exciting. And then Richard Harpham, who's the CEO of Escape Hunt, says, following the success of our original games, we are thrilled to be partnered with BBC Studios. Going to an escape hunt is all about stepping into and experiencing new ways or new worlds, so strength in the science fiction genre is key to our strategy. He goes on to say that Doctor Who represents the very best in British action adventure and has a loyal and dedicated fan base that spans generations. We look forward to bringing the show to life for them in its first ever live escape game experience across the UK. So does this sound like your cup of tea, mate? Sound like something you want to do?
I don't know. It's certainly intriguing. I mean, I assume this is something that's been going on for a while, this genre of escape rooms. So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, it sounds fascinating, mate. It sounds really good. I mean, they're talking about opening up in Birmingham, Leeds, Oxford and Reading. So it's good that, there should be sort of lots of venues that people can get to. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should sign up as a team because I don't know. It does sound interesting. I mean, is there like going to be props in the room? Do you think? Is it going to be an interact? I just don't know. I can't quite work out exactly what it is, but it sounds intriguing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, when you go into a room, so there's 3 very easy steps that Escape Hunt tell you. So, step 1 is step into a new world. Step number 2 is get locked in and clued up. And then step number 3 is beat the clock and break out. So,
cool.
So when you go into it, don't get me wrong, when they say escape room, it's not like a tiny little room where it's claustrophobic. You're in like a fairly decent,
Not like a panic room.
So yeah, I would envisage that in the Doctor Who themed room, there will be plenty of props and it will be decked out to, so it's very Doctor Who-y in terms of its feel and everything like that. And so that's basically it. You all get thrown into a room and then you have an objective of some kind. They're the details we haven't got yet. So I'll tell you what it might be like. When we've been to the Doctor Who experience in the past?
Yeah.
And, the first part of the experience, before you have the free time to walk around, you've got like this interactive story.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So it's like that, but instead of going to sort of walking through to different rooms, it's kind of like that, but you're not there's no hand holding. So there isn't a big screen with the Doctor with a pre-recorded part. It's kind of like that. There's a bespoke storyline that's been written and it's up to you to sort of solve the clues to escape within the time frame. I hope I'm explaining that well enough. But
it does make sense. Yeah, it's certainly intriguing, mate. Yeah.
So it's really cool. So that's going to be coming. So the first one is in Bristol at the end of this year. And then they're going to open it up in the other ones. Where did you say? Leeds, Oxford, Reading and Birmingham.
Birmingham, yeah.
In 2019. So this sounds really cool. So jump over to escapehunt.com/Doctor Who, get your name down on the mailing list. And then when they open up tickets, you can jump on them and do the thing.
Sign us up. Sign us up now. Yes. Right, let's talk San Diego Comic-Con news, mate, because obviously when we recorded last week, it was all about to kick off, and so it all did. So we had a Doctor Who panel over there with Jodie Whittaker, Tosin Cole, Mandip Gill, Chris Chibbers, and executive producer Matt Strevens, isn't it? Strevens. So they did their San Diego Comic-Con panel over there, and the BBC, and this is what I was pleased about, uploaded the entire thing, so unedited. So because I thought they might just show little, tidbits from it and stuff like that, but they uploaded the whole panel. And I watched this the other night, actually, the whole thing all the way through. And it was really good. They start off a bit shaky, as you can imagine. They sort of come out and they're all a little bit nervous. But once they got into the panel, they came across really well, actually. And one thing I got from watching it was you can see a great chemistry already between Jodie and Tosin and Mandip. They were sort of joking around between each other. And it was very natural. Do you know what I mean? You could just see that they seem to get on very well. And if that's the sort of thing you're going to get on screen, then I think it's going to make for really good television. The other thing I got from it was that they were scared to death they were going to give something away. Like Jodie was constantly looking at Chris Chibnall. Like every time she said anything, she's sort of looking at him as if to say, I'm not saying too much, am I? And all this sort of stuff. They were so guarded by what they were saying. But it was a good panel. I think it went down really, really well. Have you watched the whole thing, mate? Have you got to see? Yeah. What did you think from it? What did you get from it?
Yeah, so I thought it was really good, actually. I thought it was very, very good. And I've some notes that I put down as a result, or after watching that. So the first note that I've got here, which mirrors what you've said, is there was just fantastic chemistry between all of them. Not just Jodie and the companions, but from Chibbers and, is it Matt Strevens, the executive producer? All of them just seem like they're having an absolute ball making the show at the minute, and they're having a great... It sounds to me like even when they're filming the serious bits of the show, they're all just larking about and having a good laugh, mostly down to Bradley Walsh by the sound of it. It sounds like...
Yeah, that's right. He sadly couldn't be there, could he?
Yeah, but from what they told us about him, it's like he's a bit of a practical joker and doesn't take anything seriously. So the chemistry between all of them looks really, really good. Yeah. The other thing was... so the cast and crew, I've put down, all the cast and crew, and they mentioned this a few times as well. And in the back of my mind, I feel like this was slightly on purpose as well. And there was at least a couple of times where Jodie and Chris Chibnall said that the crew, and they specified it, and they said a couple of times that the crew back in Cardiff were absolutely amazing people, and they're very passionate and, very talented, and they're all working hard to make sure the show's what it can be. Because in my head, I thought, right, okay, they're kind of almost reinforcing the fact that, yes, Doctor Who is still being made in Cardiff, in Wales, by those same people, because there was some talk, wasn't there, before we got more details about, I think even before Jodie was announced and then shortly afterwards, there was a lot of chatter around whether they were going to still make Doctor Who in Cardiff.
That's right, yeah. They were talking, Manchester was rumoured, wasn't it? And
whether they were going to move it, because a lot of things have moved to Manchester that the BBC are doing. So there was a lot of chatter around that. So I think this was almost a reinforcement to say that, Doctor Who is very still much at home in Cardiff, and the crew in Cardiff, and the amazing crew back in Cardiff, and all that stuff. So I picked up on that a couple of times. Another few little small things that I picked out that Chibbers mentioned was that a lot of people have said about how new and fresh the show is going to be. And Chris Chibnall said that he wanted there to be absolutely no barrier to entry for this new series.
Yes.
So he wanted brand new fans to be able to watch it and not get bogged down with what has become before. So I think a good way that he explained it was, the show is still very much Doctor Who. And it's very much, the Doctor is still the Doctor, and there's that thread that runs through the show that's very familiar. But we're going to focus a lot more on new treats and less on old stuff returning. That's the way he put it. And so I think this is going to be a real kind of big reset in a way. And that was reinforced by the fact that, and I know this is no sort of solid confirmation, but he did go on to say a bit later that they've got 2 weeks left of shooting and we still haven't had any Daleks yet.
That's right.
So did you hear about this as well? Because there was some Twitter accounts and some other people saying that the Daleks have confirmed that they're not making an appearance in Series 11. But that's not nobody has actually said that. Chibbers or the BBC, if no one has actually said, yes, you're correct, no Daleks this season. It's just a bit elusive at the minute. It just says, we've got a couple of weeks left and we haven't had any Daleks yet. So we have got the sort of unwritten rule and this kind of mythical contract that the Terry Nation estate has got with the BBC that every episode or every series has to feature Daleks in some way, shape or form. But who's to say that, because nobody really knows what that contract
and I don't
entails.
know whether... I always wanted to hear them off either confirm or deny it, I wish I'd sort of thought to ask him that, and when we've been in sort of, Q&As with him and stuff, because I don't know where that come from? But it's kind of been taken as a given, isn't it, that it's true? And I think it probably is true.
Yeah.
But I've just never had it confirmed that that's true, that the Terran-Nation State, had that contract with the BBC. It could be that it's expired.
I was going to say, it could be. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't rule out seeing the Daleks, but I'll be sort of happy if we don't. I think they need a rest. I think they need to sort of come back bigger and badder than ever. But I reckon a series without one would be quite welcome, actually.
I agree.
I wouldn't mind if they come back for Christmas. I'll be honest with you. If we had a series without them and then they were the sort of Christmas special draw, I wouldn't mind that. I'd be quite happy with that. But I would like a series without them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you've kind of reading my mind a little bit here because the two things that I thought were, has that contract, if there is such a thing, has that expired, or have the BBC kind of bought that contract out, if that makes sense? They might have gone to the Terran-Nation and State and said, look, we don't want any Daleks, but we understand there's this in place. How much would it be to, buy this contract out so we don't have to honour it anymore? So there could be sort of ways and means of them getting around that. But the other thing I thought was, quite often, the Christmas special, when you're looking at it in chronological order, on things like Wikipedia and other like TARDIS Wikia and stuff like that, the Christmas special often gets bundled in with that current series. I know that they've released them separately on discs
I know what you mean.
Time.
Yeah.
So they could get around it that way. If they're going to put it in the Christmas special, they could say, well, technically on paper, the Christmas special is actually part of Series 11. So they could get away, with not having the Daleks in the 10 episodes of the actual series proper. But then when it comes to Christmas, they might just sort of shoehorn them in and technically they're not breaking any legal agreements because the Christmas special might be classed as the Series 11 Crimbo special. So,
I mean, if they imagine that though, because the Crimbo specials have been so weak over the last few years, but if they gave us a really, if we didn't see the Daleks for this series and then they give us a really good Dalek story for Christmas, give us, I think if we got a decent story with them, I think we'd sort of forgive them for coming back so soon. I think it would be good, especially at Christmas. You can you can forgive it because it's a special, it's a treat. But I think they need a rest. I think the Cybermen definitely need a rest. They've been so overused, I think, during Moffat's run. They just kept popping up all the time, even as wooden Cybermen. They've been well overdone. But the thought of having a series of brand new monsters, I think, is really exciting.
Yes.
We got a whole new load of monsters to get to know and love and hate, and that's very exciting, I think.
Absolutely, mate. And I think especially Chris Chibnall, he really emphasised that. So he did say a few times, look, this is about. He did say that there's going to be a lot of new characters that you're going to like and love, and there's going to be a lot of new guest characters for you to love. And a lot of new monsters as well. So he did emphasise that a couple of times. I think the point they're trying to make is that, yes, we understand that there are big famous monsters within Who, like Cybermen and Daleks, but look, let's just let them rest for a bit because we've got exciting new stories and new monsters to show you. Yeah. So he did emphasise that. Let's not concentrate on everything that we've seen, which is all amazing, but let's give you something new and fresh for you to get excited and fall in love with. And he also mentioned as well, didn't they? Because they touched on spoilers and the leak.
Yes.
And it's really good to hear Chibbers just not sort of sticking by his guns, if you like, and still really reinforce. And Jodie did this as well. She mentioned a couple of times in the panel that they really want the whole world to experience Doctor Who at the same time.
Yes.
Which is really cool. They said, look, it's not like, because I think the girl that was running the panel, her name escapes me, but she did say, why have you chosen to keep so much locked away and a lot of secrecy? Because in the past, we've seen a lot, trailers and everything like that. And they did say, look, we want everybody to experience Doctor Who at the same time. And I think one of them said, I think it might have been Chibbers, but they said it would be a bit like going to the cinema, and when you've sat down to watch a film, you see the ending at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be very much fun for you because by the time you get to the end of the film, you're like, oh, well, I've already seen that. It's not, you know. So you can understand what they're saying. And I really love that Chibbers has stuck to his guns and he hasn't caved. And because he must have got so many requests by many different media outlets to say, look, we want another trailer. We want a teaser. We want this information. Give us more stuff. And he's like, no, you're not having anything. You know, it's all on lockdown. You'll all get to see it at the same time. Go away, go away sort of thing. But yeah, I really like that it's their attitude hasn't changed from when they first took over the show. So, which also gets me thinking that they won't do one of these because in the past they've always done this sort of premiere at somewhere in Cardiff, like 2 weeks before it goes out.
True, yeah.
And that always results in the Moff, trying his best, saying to fans, look, please try and keep it to yourselves. But inevitably, it never happens. The majority of fans do, but then there's always a few that jump on Twitter straight away and say, yes, this has just happened. This has just happened, So I can imagine that Chibnall has also put a stop to that. He's like, no, we're not having any premieres in cinemas. We're not doing any of that stuff. He's really keen on everybody seeing it together, so...
Do you know, I hadn't thought about that at all, actually, mate. That's a very good point. Because, I think that's a good thing. I quite like the sort of cinema premieres. It's really great to go and watch Doctor Who in the cinema with other fans. But no, it does. It is a bit strange having sort of this premiere a week or two before it's on the TV. And then I think actually it's a good thing if he has knocked it on the head. I really hope he has, actually. Just like you said, we all watch it together. A bit like when Doctor Who came back in 2005, Rose hit the screen. All the Doctor Who fans are watching it, new and old, together, discovering this show. So yeah, I really hope he has done that. The other thing was as well, talking of not giving too much away, we did get the new proper trailer at SDCC, which we assumed we would. I was beginning to wonder if we were going to get that clip that was leaked a while back, but it turns out no, we got a proper trailer. A good trailer, I thought, but it gave absolutely nothing away. I think even the girl who was hosting the panel, who actually I thought was quite good, even she said, though, didn't she? Well, you're not showing us much, and she said it in a way that, just sort of said, yeah, great trailer, but, what can we expect? Because it doesn't show any monsters or anything. It basically just gives us little snapshots of... our TARDIS team and like you get an idea of the visuals, but there's nothing. Yeah, I mean, I liked the trailer, but it gave nothing away at all, did it? It was it was. What did you think of the trailer? Because I wasn't impressed with the teaser, as you know, but what do you think of the actual trailer? I thought it was again that's by design. That's Chibnall's. It's the way he wants it.
Exactly, yeah, and he's really got a strong hold on that because there are times where, and this happens in both movies and television, where you've got the creative team who are actually putting it together. So you've got the director, the producers and so on. And they might have in their heads an idea of how they want something to go out in the media. But then you have the overriding studio who have said, no, it happens more in movies, to be honest, where the director's like, I'm going to put a trailer together. And then the executives at the studio level, they'll be like, no, we want a proper trailer and we want it out here. And we want to do that. And they're at the mercy but I think the BBC executives have kind of just given Chibbers free rein to just be like... It
seems like it, doesn't it? I was going to say that because I like the fact they're trusting him to do it his own way because I might be wrong saying this, but I seem to remember that when the thing about John Sims Master coming back was announced, I'm pretty sure the Mothball said... Yeah, well, the BBC wanted it, and now I'm sure he blamed the BBC for it. I might be wrong, but it does stick in my head in an interview. He's like, "Well, the BBC wanted it out there, so it's good that because I'm sure the BBC would have probably, if they had been put in the trailer or whatever, they probably would have wanted a few monsters in there or something. Like even if it's just a quick snapshot of what was that." Like a claw or anything, we didn't see any monsters, I don't think. So they probably would have wanted something a bit more in there, but clearly Chibbers has said, no, this is the trailer. I don't know. I'm just assuming here, but there is very little in that trailer. And I would have thought the BBC at some level probably would have liked a little bit more, but they're trusting that Chibbers knows what he's doing. So it does seem like he's running his own ship, which is, is great, really. He's doing it his way, isn't he?
Yeah, and rightly so as well. And I imagine that's maybe one of the stipulations when he took the job. I imagine he said, look, I've got a vision, the way that I want Doctor Who to be made and viewed by people, and you've got to just let me do that, or you're going to have to find... I'm just guessing that's... Yeah. It's like you either, you want me to do it, and if that's the case, great, let me do it the way I'm going to do it, or you either half want me to do it, and if that's the case, I'm not interested, get some, And it really does feel like that. It feels like not conversations that in a harsh way, like, oh my God, that was a bit of a tasty meeting. I thought it was going to kick off. I don't mean like that, but I imagine he would have been very clear from the beginning.
I think I remember him saying in an interview something along the lines of, I went in with this set idea and plan and didn't think they'd go for it. And they were like, yeah, great. I'm pretty sure he said something along those lines in an interview back when he got the job, didn't he? He was like, I'd got my sort of vision of what I wanted to do with the series, like there's all this talk of it being one sort of long story arc and all that. And he said, I didn't think they'd go for it, but they did. And yeah, so I don't know. It's good. It's good that he's going to do that. Yeah.
But overall, I thought the trailer was good. I mean, it does give us a little bit more of a... I mean, the thing that I liked most about it was just how beautiful it looks, because they did mention, albeit very briefly, about the new cameras they were using and the new lenses and stuff. And it does look... I mean, we've said it before about some of the Matt Smith episodes, that they really upped the quality. I think Series 6, they really upped the quality and like the cinematic...
big budget.
Yeah. And I think this has done it and even a step further, because it just looks so good.
I tell you, I'm glad you've said that, because that's reminded me of the other thing that I really liked in the panel was when Chibbers was talking about the budget and working with CGI and stuff. And he said that there's obviously CGI in it, but he said they've also tried to do a lot more practical effects this year, because he said CGI is all really good, but it often looks very clean. And you can sort of tell. So he said, so we've tried to do as much with practical stuff as CGI. And I really like that, because I've said this a lot. Whenever I go and see big budget films now, like, like the Avengers and stuff like that. Yeah, the CGI is great, but we are so used to it now that it doesn't have that realness. We're sat there thinking, well, that's CGI. I know how they did that. They've used wires for that bit, because we know how things work. So it's really good, I think, that I always think, and I think films will go this way as well. I think films will go back to more basics. I mean, the last Star Wars film as well, if I'm thinking right, did that, didn't it? Like they used a Yoda puppet rather than CGI in what's the last Star Wars film? I always forget.
The Last Jedi.
That's the one. Yeah, so, I think films will slowly go back to using real props more than relying so heavily on CGI. And I think that's a good thing, because, I think CGI can date very quickly.
Yes,
I was really pleased to hear that Chibnall saying that they were sort of going to go more down that sort of route rather than relying so heavily on CGI.
Yeah, it was cool. And he did actually mention J.J. Abrams and Christopher Nolan, like these filmmakers, because that was one of the things that a lot of Star Wars fans wanted when Star Wars was coming back with The Force Awakens. They said, look, the prequels were just over the top. Computer generated.
It's all green screen.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah, and J.J. Abrams actually said, the thing about Star Wars is the practical effects are so good, and it's tactile and you can see it and the light reacts properly. And so like you said, it's good that he mentioned that stuff, because it gives you a little bit of confidence that, they're sort of nailing the look and feel that, because there have been some episodes, even as late as sort of Capaldi's era, when you and I have reviewed them and we're thinking, what the hell are they doing with the CG? Yeah. It just looks awful.
We've said, haven't they, a few times, some of the CG was really ropey, and some of it was very good, but some of it was, very ropey. We also got to see the new Sonic, which we should quickly talk about, because it's very different. It's very organic looking. What do you reckon to it?
Yeah, it's definitely very different to everything we've seen before. It sort of loses the very mechanical, sort of steampunky contraption that we've seen previous to this. And like you said, it's very organic. And they tried to dig a little bit deeper, didn't they, in the panel as to what it's made of and how Jodie got to it. And Chivers did say, there's a very specific way that Jodie gets to make this, and they left it there. They didn't give us any more info on that. But in terms of how it looks and everything, it's very different. I mean, I think I like it. I think it looks pretty cool. I mean, it's one of those things where it's going to be very much a case of, I don't think it's Marmite. I don't think you love it or hate it. I think it's one of those slow burners. It's going to grow on people. And yeah, what do you think?
You've hit the nail on the head, because I saw we had that leak recently, one of the pictures that was floating around everywhere and I couldn't avoid it was a picture of the new Sonic, and I thought, oh, that can't be it. That can't be the new Sonic. And then obviously it's unveiled, and it is, and I was like, I really wasn't taken with it at all. It is slowly growing on me. Because to cut a long story short, I hated it when I first saw it. I thought, that is hideous. That is horrible. That's not a Sonic. What is that? And I don't know, the more I look at it, the more intrigued I am about how she acquires it, because I think she's going to make it from what clips and I don't know. It looks like it's going to be sort of very organic, this Sonic. And then there's something about when it lights up. I don't know. I'm slowly coming round to it. And I think I'm going to love it by the time we see it on screen. But it is a slow burner, mate. I didn't like it at all when they first unveiled it. But I'm coming round to it. I really am. Yeah.
There was also something interesting, because Jodie had one of the toys. So they're releasing 2 versions of this Sonic, which we'll come on to in a little while. But she had the US version actually there on the table, and she got it out from under her card at one point. And what's interesting, and I'm not sure if this is something to protect the show, but when she pressed the button, it's making exactly the same Sonic sounds as the previous Sonic.
That.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. That's exactly what I thought. It's making the sort of Tennant, Smith, noise, whatever. Yeah, it's making the old Sonic sound. Because I remember thinking the same. I was thinking, is it actually going to have that sound effect? Because I assume it'll have a new sound effect. So I don't know. Intriguing.
Very intriguing. But yes, I'd say overall, I think I like it. The trailer and the Sonic. I mean, it's all good. And then we had some other little bits that Jodie popped up on. We had this really cool little clip at the beginning of the panel where you show her.
Oh, I loved that.
That was really cool. And she's running late for Comic-Con, and she assumes that she can just jump into her TARDIS and off she goes. But when she gets there, there's a little sign hanging on the door. It says, "Not for personal use," and she sort of rolls her eyes like, oh, here we go. So then you see a plane, and she's legging through San Diego, and that was really cool. Did you think
she asked the cosplayer for the directions, and I loved it. It was fun, and we got to see sort of Jodie, I think she is going to be a fun Doctor, you know, just going by these little bits and bobs that we're coming through now. I thought it was a lovely idea as well, just such a simple, and just the sweeping shot of the TARDIS, so we finally got to see it on screen, and I was like, oh, it's chunky and it's quite dark, and I'm loving it. And I loved that intro, mate. I thought it was brilliant.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then she also popped up at something else during the Comic-Con as well. So there's a really popular sort of female sci-fi geek fashion brand called Her Universe. And this company makes, I think they do make a few male things, but it's predominantly a female cosplay and geek fashion label. And for the past few years, they've done a catwalk sort of fashion show at Comic-Con. And who turns up at this year's one? Jodie Whittaker. She sort of pops down the ramp, the catwalk with the hood up, and then she puts the hood down. Everyone goes mad, and she's got the proper Doctor's costume on, and she's got the new Sonic and stuff. And that was a really great surprise.
Nice.
She wasn't announced for anybody before the show, so very, very cool.
She did. She literally rocked the catwalk, didn't she? And she was rocking the hood, the costume, everything. Yeah, I saw that bit quite late on, actually. But yeah, it's a real cool little thing to do, little inclusion of her. That's brilliant. Yeah,
very cool.
Yes.
So you could say that Doctor Who was a very, very large element, a very sort of big part of Comic-Con this year, purely because everything's brand new and everybody was so desperate to see Jodie, and there were people that were camping out a few nights before the panel, which is crazy. And crazy in a good way, us fans, we'll go to lengths to see this stuff. So it was very, very cool. And I also saw a clip of John Barrowman dressed up in a TARDIS dress and white high heels. And
was that from this?
Singing his lungs out at something.
Oh, right. I didn't realise it was from this.
Yeah, so overall I would say that Comic-Con's been a big success for Doctor Who. It was, I think it did exactly what it needed to do. It expanded on the previous teaser from the World Cup. It didn't give away anything, which is good. We got to meet the new cast in a bit more detail. The new companions look really good, by the way.
Yeah,
those guys. Chibbers, stamping his authority a bit more. Matt Strevens just backing him up by the look of it. So overall, it was really cool. I thought it was a great panel, great Comic-Con for Doctor Who. And then we got a load of merch out of it as well that we spoke about on last week's show. But some good stuff. I thought it was a great success for Who. Yeah,
my overall feeling after watching it was just how excited I was to see them hit our screens. I was just like, because it's the first time I've seen Tosin and sorry, what's the girl's name? Mandip.
Yep.
I keep wanting to call her Yasmin. I've no idea why. Yeah, Tosin and Mandip. It's the first time I've got to sort of hear them speak as well. So it's really good to sort of get a bit more from them. And as I said, just Jodie just oozes personality. And, the whole time I was watching, I just thought she just seems funny. She's really quick-witted. She seems to be interacting brilliantly with, Tosin and Mandip. I just genuinely, when I finished watching it was just like, I can't wait for these guys. It did, like you said, it did what it needed to do. It got me very excited for Series 11.
Yeah. Yes. And I think the majority of us are bought into Chibber's way of doing things as well. He really seems to know what he's doing. He's got his vision is there in his head. He's got a goal in sight, and he's really sticking true to all the stuff that he said he was going to do when he took the job. So
yeah,
that gives a lot of confidence out, I think, to everybody. So,
and I'm totally sold on Jodie as the Doctor as well. Course. I mean, I was anyway, but just the more I see of her, the more I just want more. Like 13th Doctor. I just totally just can't wait. Actually, yeah.
We've bought our ticket to the Jodie show. Now we're just waiting on...
just waiting for it to start.
Waiting for it to happen, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was what happened at Comic-Con really. I think there was there were some other bits that happened as well. There were some other bits and pieces which we might talk about next week. But overall, the main thing was the panel and the trailer and the Sonic reveal. But overall, good stuff.
Yeah, very good stuff.
Should we get our metal friend in and rattle through some merch?
Yes, let's do it.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
You might be happy about this first bit. You might not be happy.
I might be. I might not.
You might not. I don't know. No. But subscribers to Doctor Who magazine will be getting a slightly different version through the letterbox. I think it's starting with the next one, 528, the one that's out next. Yeah. So Doctor Who magazine have said that for subscribers, you're going to be getting the free or the textless or the clear, whichever way you want to call it, cover. And I've had a similar thing. I subscribed to I used to subscribe to a magazine up until recently called Retro Gamer magazine. And they did a similar thing where they were doing just standard covers for everybody. But then I think 2 or 3 issues ago, I got the one through the door and I thought, that looks really different. Is this like a special edition or anything? But I found out they were doing these sort of alternate covers that had no text on the front and a slightly different design. But for Doctor Who, they're doing the same picture that everyone would get as well in the shops, but it's going to be completely clear of all text and everything. So I imagine it's just going to be the logo and the main image that they've chosen for the cover. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't subscribe to Who magazine. I just pick it up now and then, but you do. So how do you feel about this one?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know how I feel about this, because when they first announced it, I didn't want it. I was like, no, I don't. I just want the one that's in the shop. I don't want it.
I don't want it.
I don't know. It's something a bit annoying about it. I think that my main issue is they haven't given people the choice. So if you're a subscriber, you get this or you lump it or you unsubscribe. So there's no choice. Subscribers are getting the clear cover, whether they want it or not. I think that's my biggest issue. But I just can't decide on this one. A bit like the Sonic, because for example, the issue that's coming out tomorrow or yesterday, if you're listening to this when the podcasts go out, the cover's beautiful. It's a brand new shot of Jodie. It's a fantastic cover. So I'll be getting that, but without all the text, and that's going to look fantastic. But I also kind of want the proper version with all the tagline. I don't know. I just don't know how I feel about it. Part of me is thinking, knowing what I'm like, and I know a lot. I know I'm not going to be alone in this. I think a lot of people are going to end up buying 2 copies because they'll want. So if you get like a particularly nice cover like this one, I might just get one from the shop, so I've got both. Or not every issue, but if it's a really good cover, I might just want sort of both versions. I don't know. It's thrown me a bit, this. I really don't know how I feel about it. I kind of don't like it because it's put me in a quandary of whether I want it or not. Does that make sense? I'm just like, I don't know if I want this.
Yes.
But I haven't got a choice, so I'm getting it. But unless I unsubscribe. So I don't know. I think I'll like it when the issue arrives because the cover's so nice this month. I think when I see it without the text, I think it's going to look beautiful. But
this cover does look really nice with Jodie on the front. Nice design and stuff.
If you were a subscriber, is this something you would like? Because the other thing is, it's just come out of the blue. It's not like they've sort of asked. It's not like they've done a sort of questionnaire on Twitter and Facebook. Oh, would subscribers like? They haven't done any of that. They've just suddenly come out of the blue and said, oh, by the way, guys, from next issue, you're getting techless covers and stuff. So I don't know. It's just very out of the blue. But if you did subscribe, is this something you would welcome, or would you be a bit perplexed by it?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind this.
Yeah, I thought it might be something you'd like.
Yeah, I think it'd be quite cool. Overall, it's just a way of trying to make subscribers feel,
special.
A teeny bit more special than the muggles who are out in the shop, buying it with their sort of cold, hard cash who don't subscribe. So they're trying to sort of incentivize it just a little bit so they can say, look, don't go out to the shop and buy it every month, subscribe and we'll send you a special one that the muggles don't get. So in a way you can kind of see why they're doing it, and they're marketing it as if new readers should jump on to start their new collection. It's to begin your collection, why don't you take out this subscription that we've handily put a link to?
It's rebranding again, isn't it?
Kind of.
Again.
Yeah.
I don't know, it might be nice, but I'm not 100% sold on it. I'll let you know next week when I've actually got the issue.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yes.
Right. In other news, the first official book to accompany the new series of Doctor Who is coming out in September. There's September again. Another. I think we're looking for a September release date for the new series, don't you? It seems everything's coming out in September, so we'll see. Anyway, it's going to be called Doctor Who: The Woman Who Lived. The Women Who Lived, not the woman. Yes. There's loads of them. The Women Who Lived. It's written by Crystal D and Simon Guerrier. Don't know how you say his name. How do you? Guerrier.
Guerra, I think.
Guerra,
yes.
That'll be it. And it's 75 inspiring tales of remarkable women of the Whoniverse. So this is quite good because it's actually going from people like Agatha Christie and Queen Victoria right up to like Bill Potts and River Song, and it's going to have our new Doctor in there herself. Plus, there's going to be feature our new companion as well. So, what's Mandip's character name in the new series?
Oh, crikey!
Is it Yasmin? Is that why I keep calling her Yasmin?
I think it might be. Yeah.
That explains it. Right, good. Okay, now I know what I'm doing. Right, so it's going to have a new piece on there as well. So, as I said, coming out in September. I don't know if we've got a price for it yet. Can't see one, but is this
$16.99?
$16.99. There we go. Yeah. Nice cover. Is this our old mate Lee Binding doing this one? Looks like his style. I'm not sure.
It could be. I don't know.
I think I might have seen him text it the other day is why I'm saying that, but also it does feature lots of illustrations as well inside, which look rather nice, and they're by different artists, so they sort of really vary from like comic book style to very sort of nice artwork and stuff. So yeah, quite an intriguing book. Crystal D says obviously she's one of the people involved in it. She says, with Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor arriving this autumn, we thought this would be the perfect time to reflect upon the wealth of incredible female characters from Doctor Who's 55-year history. because there are so many. We hope the stories in this book will inspire a whole new generation of fans and existing fans too.
Very cool.
Yeah, so very cool.
Yep. Simon Guerra. What did I say? Guerra. That was it.
That's it.
Simon Guerra. It says, we hope this offers a fresh perspective on the history of Doctor Who, a chance to celebrate the richness of past episodes, as well as looking forward to the series' exciting future. I thought I knew Doctor Who backwards, but we discovered loads of new things in our research for the book. So I think it might be a fairly substantial book. It looks like it's got plenty of stuff in it, and the cover's really nice. So
the cover's nice, but there's someone missing from that cover, and I hope she's in there. That's Sarah. Where's Sarah Jane?
Oh,
she should be on there, surely. Anyway, maybe she's not in it, but I would think she is.
I would think so. Yeah.
We would think so. So that's out the 27th September, hardback, $16.99.
Indeed. Let's look at Big Finish.
Yes, let's.
So, the very first time that this particular gentleman appeared at Big Finish, it was pretty big news, actually, and it did very well. So, Sir Derek Jacobi is returning as the War Master for his second run at Big Finish, and it's called The Master of Callus. Mm-hmm. And quite excitingly, we've spoken about these a lot recently, but on the cover, we've got some Ood. Great
cover, this.
Very
fantastic
cool
cover, yeah.
This is Lee Binding, this cover.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it shouldn't.
Very cool.
Very nice.
And to give you a bit of blurb on the Master of Callus, on the mining colony Callus, Elliot King struggles to meet the demands of its governor, Terramon. The odds are stacked against him, and his options are running low. The world that once promised dreams now offers only despair. A wild Ood stalks the forests, carrying an antiquated phone. The caller promises much. He claims he can change the world, but he always speaks a devastating truth. He is the master, and the Ood will obey him. But to what end? This sounds so good.
It does sound great, yeah.
It's a standard affair from Big Finish, so it's the 4-story box set. The first story is called Call for the Dead. The second story is The Glittering Prize. Third one is The Persistence of Dreams. And story 4 is Sins of the Father. James Goss and Guy Adams share the writing for this one. When is this one out? I can't remember. I think
December,
it's...
I think.
Not till December. Yes, it is December, yeah. And they do the typical pricing that you've seen. So 20 quid for the download or 23 quid if you want the CD. Getting this one?
Yo, absolutely. 100%. I should be getting the good old-fashioned CD as well. This looks and sounds brilliant, mate. I think it looks great. So it's kicking off a new series of adventures as well. So in July, they'll be following it up with the next set, which is called Rage of the Time Lords. Sounds good. And then series 4 is called Anti-Genesis. Okay. Which will be December 2019, which sounds way off, but, it'll soon pop round. So, yeah, this is 100% a purchase for me. Definitely.
Me too, mate. This sounds very, very cool. Sometimes when you hear of a Who story, something just grabbed you about it. And I think not only is Derek Jacobi's performance just so good as the War Master, the nasty sort of villain master, but I just love stories with the Ood. I think they're one of my favourite sort of creations from modern Doctor Who. I just love the Ood. I think they're such a versatile character. And I think there's more to them as well, because in the stories that we've seen on TV, they're either slaves, obviously, or they're slaves that go a bit nuts. Mm-hmm. But I think there's more to them than that. I honestly think there's a lot more to the character of the Ood, or as a species or a race, whatever. So I'm looking forward to this story and how they can... And I really hope it's the same dude that does the voice of the Ood from the TV show as well.
Oh, yeah. I can't think... Is it Paul Casey, or am I thinking of someone else?
It could be.
Somebody like that, yeah.
So I hope it's the same guy. But, a purchase for sure, this one.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yep. Last but not least, we've spoken about these already, but the Sonic Screwdriver, the brand new one, Jodie's Sonic, is currently up for pre-order now. There's 2 versions for this. and it's been hotly debated on Twitter.
Yeah.
Ever since. So over in the US, you're getting a slightly different look for your one. It's made by a company called 720, and I'm not sure on the pricing in US dollars, but I think it's going to be roughly $25, I think, roughly. And over in the UK, we're getting one by the usual suspect, Character. Now, there is a slight difference, and I put a couple of photos on Twitter the other day when they released a slightly different version to this one. And I think the US dudes are getting a better version.
It looks so.
In my opinion. Obviously, we don't have these in hand to compare with our own eyeballs, but from the pictures that have been put out, the 720 version over in the US, there are two things that it seems that the quality seems better. So the actual look of it seems better. They seem to have got it's hard to explain, but because the Sonic looks like it's made of two parts. There's like the main body, and then there's like a almost sort of finger shape that comes off the bottom. And just above that little join where you see the main body, you've got like these little thin strips that make these sort of little semicircles, these little half of an oval, if you like. It seems like the 720 version has got that shape pretty accurate to the actual Sonic, where the Character one, it seems like they've just made them roughly in the similar shape. And it looks like it's lighter as well. The 721 looks like it's a slightly darker in terms of colour, sort of accurate. But also the Character one, you've got all the screw holes sort of on display, which doesn't look great, whereas the 721 looks like they've disguised them a little bit better. So, yeah, the US one looks slightly better. I'm not sure I want to pay the import charges for the 721, depending on what they are. But I don't know. Obviously, we'll get these, mate. We've got all the other ones, but
I'll tell you, I'd love to get my hands on one of each to compare them. I would just love to review both of these, because they do. It's very hard to tell, isn't it, from the pictures? Because that's why I would love to get the actual product to see exactly how different they are. Because I think there's no doubt about it that, what's the other company called? 720.
Yeah.
The way they've sort of photographed it for the promotional image just makes it look 100 times better than the Character version, because the Character version looks like it's got a massive join gap right down the middle of the Sonic where the two bits of plastic have been screwed together.
Well, it does.
So,
yeah.
So, I just would love to actually see the product to see what it's like, because I have managed to track down a video on YouTube of somebody with the American version. And it looked pretty good. The one thing I would say is, yes, there's no screw holes on one side, but when she turned it over, there's actually loads on the other side. So what they've done on the American one, rather than have sort of two screws on each side, they've just put all the screws down the back. So on the promotional image, you're seeing the side that's got none. But I can't work out which is better, because that, it's quite nice to have that flush side, because the other side's sort of in your hand anyway, so you don't really see. I don't know, I just want to see them both together, but at the minute it looks to me like the US are getting a better one. It's sort of painted better as well, because there's no, again, I'm going by the promotional image, but there's no shading or anything on the UK one. They just sprayed it silver and there you go. The US one sort of got shading on it, isn't it, to make it look a bit worn, and also the top spins on the US one, like the end. It's quite possible the UK one does as well, but as we haven't found a video of that one yet, or it hasn't been released, I don't know. I assume the UK one will as well, but hopefully, the US one definitely does. So it's interesting having, two companies making the same product, so one for US, one for UK, because I think this is where it gets a bit confusing. Character used to be part of Underground Toys, and Underground Toys used to do the American side, Character did the UK. Now that Underground Toys doesn't exist anymore, or it may have even formed into 720, they're doing the UK side, but they're nothing to do with each other, these two companies. So I think even if they are formally Underground Toys, they are nothing to do with Character anymore. So, yeah, so we're going to see, I think we're going to see a few things like this. Like, I know 720 are going to be doing a 5.5-inch 13th Doctor figure, but there's no announcement for a UK version yet. So I'm thinking, if the US get a 5-inch figure of the 13th Doctor and we don't get one, you can just imagine it's going to kick off, because I know you're not into your figures, mate, but there's a lot of people out there really love the figures, myself included. So I think we're going to see a few little issues like this, having two companies doing the same product. So be interesting. But I want to get both. I don't know how easy it's going to be to get the American one, but I'd love to get both so I can compare them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the American one, unless somebody like Forbidden Planet International are going to stock it as an import.
I did wonder that.
Then maybe, but otherwise, if you can order it directly, it's probably going to be double the price of the character one.
Yeah. It will, yeah. Actually, there used to be Pop Culture, which I think is an Australian company, used to get a lot of imports and stuff, but I don't know if they will. Anyway, yeah.
Anyways, New Sonic, we'll debate further down the line whether we actually 100% like it. We think we do. It's growing.
It's growing on me.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. We'll obviously get a bit more emotionally attached once we've gone through Series 11, I suppose. But at the moment, we'll pre-order it anyway, just for our OCD, because we've got all the others. But
can I just put my money on something here and now as well? I've no basis for this whatsoever, but my gut feeling is this is going to be the Sonic that she welds together and makes herself. And I bet you at the end of Series 11, she gets another, like a proper Sonic. I don't know. I just got this feeling. And then there'll be another toy to collect next year. That's what I reckon is going to happen. But could be wrong. Yeah.
So that's going to do for news and merch. Now, Sarah Jane.
Sarah Jane. Whatever happened to Sarah Jane?
What did happen to her?
This is for you. He said, give it to the person you trust the most.
Who's Andrea? Dad, something really weird is going on. There's this woman over in Sarah Jane's house.
Who's Sarah Jane?
Maria, please help me. Dad!
Get out of my house.
This isn't your house.
Who are you?
What about Maria? Remember.
July 13th, 1964. Sarah Jane, you've got to believe me. You mustn't go down there.
I told you to aid the coming of darkness. Your life was so important, and I found the right moment to snuff it out.
You were meant to die. Meant? Who says I'm meant to die?
I will return when the earth is no more.
Don't you dare! Don't you dare!
Can you hear me?
That's it.
Impact is due in 8 minutes.
Ooh.
You must make a decision. Immediately.
You got the right voice for it with your cold.
I have. It's quite cool.
Yeah, perfect for the trickster.
Indeed. Yeah. Sarah Jane Adventures. Whatever happened to Sarah Jane? It was first broadcast in 2007. Those two parts, the end of October and the beginning of November of that year. It was written by Gareth Roberts. It was directed by Graham Harper. Obviously overseen by RTD and Julie Gardner and all those peeps. And the story is, just to cut to the chase, an event happened in Sarah Jane's early life where one of her friends had a bit of an accident when they were down by the pier, and she ended up falling off, and a bit of a tragic accident. But then there's a moment that happens in the story where this character called the Trickster, who I understand, because it's the first time that I've actually seen this episode.
And me, yeah.
All these episodes. And from what I understand, this character called the Trickster turns up a few times throughout the Sarah Jane run. But essentially what happens is they would like to sort of end the world. And the way to do that is by taking Sarah Jane out of the picture so that she's not around to save the world from the meteorite that's on course to smash into the earth. And the way that the Trickster does that is by swapping the roles effectively. So when her best friend, Andrea Yates, is hanging off the pier, the Trickster turns up and says, what if I could swap you around? What if we put Sarah Jane in your shoes, but you have to agree? And so she says yes, selfishly or not. I'll let you decide, listeners, on that one. And so Sarah Jane ends up hanging off the pier. Sarah Jane falls and dies. And then in the current timeline, she's been erased from existence. And the only person that sort of remembers her is Maria, because she has the little trinket, the little time box thing that protects her mind from Sarah Jane being erased. So we have this sort of memory problem with everybody, where everyone just has no idea who Sarah Jane is, no idea who Luke Smith was, or that Sarah Jane's house. There's nothing in the attic. She's basically been erased, and it's down to Maria to sort of fix things. And so over the 2 parts, literally everyone's been, their memory's been wiped apart from Maria, who was protected by the little boxy thing. And even Andrea Yates herself didn't remember the event. She asked the trickster to, I don't want to know about it. So she's grown up not even knowing, what went on with Sarah Jane and so on. And then her dad, Alan Jackson, he sort of has a bit of a mind craziness moment where he finds the box and he clocks on. So he sort of tries to figure it out as well. And it culminates with Andrea Yates ultimately making the right decision at the very end. She tells the trickster to go do one. She says the bargain's off, the deal's off. Sarah Jane gets reinstated, and in the nick of time, Mr. Smith sort of rolls out, sorts the meteor out, and on we go.
Yes.
Almost happily ever after. So what do you reckon to this one, mate? So you and I haven't seen this one before. Fresh eyes, fresh opinions. What do you reckon?
Oh, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, really enjoyed it, mate. Nice sort of simple story. And I think this is probably the most adult one we've had so far, because Series 1, we're still in Series 1, and it's been good. It's been very family orientated. It's been mildly childish at times, with the Slovene one. And I think this is sort of taking us down the slightly more teenagery, adult side of Sarah Jane by the looks of it. And I thought it was very good. I thought production was great, actually, for this series. It struck me as being one of those, like we get Doctor Light episodes where the Doctor's hardly in it. Sarah Jane's hardly in, particularly episode 1. I think she's in episode 2 a lot more, but she's hardly in episode 1. So a lot of it's down to Yasmin Page as Maria Jackson. A lot of it's down to her to carry that episode, which is quite brave, really, because she actually steps up to the plate pretty well. She's actually quite good in it, but she's a young actress, and I wouldn't say she's been brilliant so far. So for her to carry this, particularly episode 1, I think she does a very good job, actually. Because it could have been, when you're sort of using child actors and stuff, it can, when you're dealing with serious subjects, it can sort of go off the boil a bit. But I think she carries it pretty well. So yes, this is getting a big thumbs up for me. It might even be my favourite story so far that we've watched, because what story are we on now? Is this the 5th story? We're still on Series 1, so 1, 2. Yes, I think it's the 5th story in Series 1. And so far we've liked them all. Actually, we haven't had a dud, have we? So far we've been scoring around the sort of 6.5 mark. We've been quite enjoying Series 1 of Sarah Jane. I think this actually upped the ante a bit. I actually thought this was a quite strong story. So yeah, very, very enjoyable. I thought and liked it a lot. Yeah. What about you, mate? Do you like this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what, mate? I think this is one of the best bits of television that I've seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I came away from this thinking that was a bloody good story.
Yeah.
Honestly, mate, I thought when part 1 finished, I thought, am I watching this? Am I seeing? It's like, because you mentioned earlier that it's quite an adult for a kids show. It's one of the more adult themed stories. But halfway through, I sat there and I thought, crikey, this is really, really good. I think we must have hit a plateau here, because part 2 is going to sort of, it's either going to be just as good or not, or if not better, or it's just going to fade away now. Because it's a kids program. We can't have, anything in the way of violence too much going on. And, the goodies have got to live on, so everyone's obviously going to survive. But how are they going to... But when I finished watching the whole thing, I was like, crikey, that was... I loved it, mate. I thought it was such a great... I think it was the script and the direction together just made this a superb watch. And you're right, we have been enjoying Sarah Jane so far as we've gone through series 1. But this one, for me, just the rest of the series is going to have to bring something pretty special to follow this up. I thought it was such a great story and a great piece of television, and the performances were brilliant. I thought the performances in this one were up another level.
Yeah. It's started to feel like things have clicked into place.
Yes.
Like everything's just running along really nicely so far in series 1. But yeah, like you said, it's as if they've gone into another gear now. All the cast are gelling. Like you said, it just feels like a really strong program, because I suppose it could be quite easy for somebody who hasn't watched Sarah Jane. I mean, I've only seen bits and bobs, but you sort of think, oh, it's a kid's show, isn't it? You sort of write it off as something like, as if like, the stories might be a bit throwaway. Like, oh, it's half an hour of entertainment, but there's no content, or, doesn't sort of delve into anything too deep. That's not the case. The writing in it is superb for a children's show. It's not sort of a bit of fluff that's just, kills half an hour. There's actually some great stuff going on in terms of the writing and, like you said, the performance. Just touching on the direction, great to have Graham Harper back, because obviously he's such a great director anyway. Did Caves and Design and all that. So you got Gareth Roberts, who obviously has written for Doctor Who, Graham Harper, plus this cast. It's all really sort of working well together, I think. Yeah, so I agree with you. I thought it was a fantastic piece of television for, I'm just amazed I haven't watched it before. I think you may have been thinking this when, like, your reaction to episode 1. I think I was in a similar place, because it got to the end and I was thinking, I can't believe that I haven't sort of sat down and watched this till now. It's just like, it's that good, isn't it? It's just like, it's been sat on my shelf. I bought series 1, goodness knows how long ago, thinking, well, it's to do with Doctor Who, so I'll buy it and watch it at some point. And it's just sat there, and it's good that it's so good, because I'm now thinking, man, I should have been watching this ages. I should have been watching it when it was on the TV.
Absolutely, mate. And it's one of those things where, I'll say this to anybody comfortably now, because I wanted to sort of get into the flow of Sarah Jane before. Because there's always that thing, because we do get asked on Twitter a few times, like, is it worth watching X, whatever it might be? Is it worth watching the Davison era? Is it worth me getting into Torchwood or whatever it is? But we've been asked this a few times on Twitter since we've been reviewing Sarah Jane, and I would absolutely say now it's just watch it. It doesn't matter how you watch it, if you have to go and buy the DVDs or the Blu-rays, or if it's streamed in your country, whatever, but it's really worth a watch. And yes, it has been a bit up and down, this first series. And I don't mean in terms of quality, I mean in terms of who the audience it's for, because we've had a couple of, I think, what was it, the one before Warriors of Kudlak, the Slovene, one before Warriors of Kudlak, before Eye of the Gorgon. Was it the Slovene, the first?
Revenge of the Slovene, or Invasion of the Bane, even, the sort of pilot episode.
Yes, and the Slovene. Yeah. So those ones, you can tell that they're kind of honouring their agreement almost with CBBC, like, we're going to make a very comfortable, light-hearted children's programme. But then Warriors of Kudlak, it almost raised the bar a little bit in its sort of darkness almost. It's not a very dark, it's not a hugely dark story where it goes into some dark places and you think, I don't really want the kids watching it. It just sort of borderlines on some themes, if you like. But then this one takes it up to another level. It's almost, that's what I mean by up and down. You have these very light-hearted, child-friendly, kid-orientated stories. And then this one, the kids can still watch it. It's got that kind of scary, because the trickster character does look very scary. And there's one scene where Andrea Yates is up in the attic, because Sarah Jane has been erased at this point. And she's up in the attic, and the only way that they can see the trickster is in the mirror.
Yes.
And there's a scene where the trickster appears behind her in the room, and the camera zooms in like super quick on the trickster's face, And you get this sort
of
of
teeth.
Yeah, the sound effects.
Yeah.
And even I got goosebumps and I thought, crikey, that is creepy. That's really creepy. So you can imagine for kids, they'd love it because it's got that real creepiness to it. Like, yay, I'm allowed to watch something scary.
It's the sort of episode as well that, you know, so we've had a few people who have commented on the podcast Facebook page saying, you know, is Sarah Jane for me? Like, I'm a Doctor Who Tortures fan. Is it a kid's show? Or am I going to like it? And I would say, up to this point, I would say it's very watchable, but maybe a little too kiddie for some people. This is an episode where I could say, oh no, this is good. You ought to watch this. This will show you how good the series can be. This is an absolutely top-notch story that, yes, it's got kiddie elements, but also it's very, very family sort of orientated. Like you said, it's just on the edge of being scary enough for adults, but also fun enough for kids as well. So I think if I was going to sort of say to someone, where do I jump on, or I don't really, you know, what's a good episode to start with? I mean, we're still really early on. We're only on series 1, but I would say, well, this is going to be marked down on my book as one to say, well, this is a good one to watch. If you've never watched it before, watch this one. This is good. Yeah.
Absolutely, mate. It's definitely one to recommend. And just to confirm, you know, if
I was looking at the Slovene one and it said, if someone said, oh, shall I watch the Slovene one first? They might watch it and think, oh, no, I can see it's a kids program. No, it's silly. And, you know, although I think it's perfectly fun and watchable, I might not recommend that as a good jumping on point. But this struck me as just being a perfect pitch between sort of for kids and adults alike, this one.
I know what you mean. So if somebody said, just in general, should I watch Sarah Jane? The answer is yes, go ahead. But if somebody said, I'm the sort of person that I just really don't like, I'm not into cartoons, I'm not into kids programs, you know, I'm really not into that, but should I give it a go? Then yes, but maybe give this one a watch first. And if you're sort of drawn to the characters and you want to know more about it, then nip back to the pilot and watch from there. And one thing that that's why I like this story so much, because it has it all in there. It's one of those stories where it's kind of that sort of gem that forms in certain stories that comes along now and then, where you've got funny, emotional, sad, sort of action, scariness. It's all packaged in there really well. And that's one of the things that that when I turned it off, I thought, bloody hell, you know, that's that almost felt like it could be in Doctor Who for me. It almost felt like, because it does have a little bit of, not kiddiness about it, but sort of a more youthful setup where you see them at the skateboarding park at the beginning. And you know, those little bits, and you think, you know, that, okay, I get you. You know, we're on CBBC, you know, I know where we're going with this. But you've got the scariness factor with the trickster, but you also have a real emotional side to it as well. So there are a couple of scenes where I welled up a little bit, and it's where Sarah Jane is absolutely pleading with Andrea Yates to reverse her decision because she wants to save her son Luke, you know, because he's not in it very much at all. So he's been sort of transported out of the timeline as well, but not with Sarah Jane. So he's off somewhere on his own. And Sarah Jane's pleading with Andrea Yates, you know, because she's trapped in the mirror, and she's like, you know, I need to save Luke. You know, he's got his whole life ahead of him. And I just welled up a little bit because, it's just really emotional. And then you've got Maria, who's grown really attached to Sarah Jane, and it's her mission to save her, because she can hear her. When they go to the library, she can hear Sarah Jane. Oh,
that's it, yeah.
Sorry. And, so it's really up there in terms of making you feel something when you watch it, because there are plenty of programs that you can watch and enjoy, but you don't necessarily have any feeling once you've watched it. Yeah. Whereas this one gets you, to me. It really sort of hits home that the characters, like you said, all the characters are gelling nicely together now, and you get a sense of family almost. And it was really cleverly written as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say about the family as well, because even like Maria's mum, who starts off in the series being quite annoying, she's not very likable at all. But even she's sort of really starting to form her character now. So she is a sort of selfish individual, but they've softened her, and she's more humorous. And actually, they've made her sort of selfish quite sort of sarcastic side of her character softened and more funny. And she's becoming quite likable, isn't she? So when she sort of pops up in the earlier episodes, you're a bit like, oh, here she is. But now she's sort of like this character that's quite sort of fun, I think. Like, it started a few episodes back when she was talking to the statue. We got to see another side of her. And now in this one, we get to see a more fun side of her where she sees the grass and she's like, what the hell's that? And all this. So even characters like that are sort of side characters, if you like, are starting to sort of get more rounded, and I'm warming more towards them and finding them more fun, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because like you said, that family sense. So you really start to feel that, obviously the mum and dad are split up. But you start to see the relationship between Maria, her mum and dad, and how it comes across as a proper family relationship, I think, because they've bonded as characters or as actors, if you like. Yeah.
And you also get that feeling between Maria and Sarah Jane as well.
Oh, massively.
Don't you? You really get that sense of mother and daughter relationship between those two as well, which is kind of has been kicked off from the first episode, really, the first story.
Yeah.
And it's kind of grown a little bit, because you do get those little pockets of, Sarah Jane does look out for Maria because she's accepted her into her life, and she's accepted that she knows about aliens and all that stuff, and they're on their sort of little mini adventures together. But this one, you really got a sense of Maria just being absolutely terrified that something's happened to Sarah Jane, and really frustrated that no one else, especially her dad, nobody else can see what's going on.
Yeah.
So everyone else is like, who's Sarah Jane? What are you talking about? Because she rings Clyde, and he's like,
oh, that's really funny, isn't it? He's like, what are you ringing? He's such a lad, isn't he, Clyde?
He thinks that she's ringing him to ask him out, and because he has no recollection of anything. Nobody does. So she's really frustrated, and her dad thinks she's losing her mind a little bit. And that's all driven by her sort of love for Sarah Jane, I suppose. She's terrified that something's happened to her, so she makes it a mission to sort the whole thing out. And
that's a lovely scene in the beginning, actually. You talking about them, sort of Sarah Jane being quite motherly towards her. There's that bit where she sort of sends Clyde and Luke out the room so she could have a quiet moment with Maria and all that. So yeah, she's very
maternal. Yeah.
Yes, it is maternal, isn't it? Yeah. Again, it's lovely to see the cast are so well gelled by this point in the series. Like, yeah.
What did you reckon to the story, the sort of message that it's trying to portray, if you like, to young viewers? Because what it's trying to say, I think, is, look, there are going to be times in your life where you're going to have to make potentially big decisions, but make sure you're making the right decisions as you grow up, sort of thing. Because it sort of focuses on Andrea Yates and her decision at that point in her life, where because Alan Jackson, when he confronts her at the party and then they go up into the attic and he's trying to get out of her what's happened, he's quite disgusted in a way. He's disgusted at that he let her friend die in her place, because he says it a couple of times, she was your friend, what the hell are you doing? And the second one is that, you've lived a long life, and only now you're kind of, you've got tears and you're crying and stuff, but you're not crying because, anyone else is lost or has been hurt by it. You're crying because you feel bad about yourself. So he's going down the, you're being really selfish. Yeah, you've got no morals and stuff. And I think in a way it's trying to sort of say to kids, look, there are going to be times in your life where you're going to have to make decisions, but, try and make the right... Because I think we touched on this when we covered the pilot, in that when you're writing a television show, especially for children, it's very difficult to make it entertaining, but also have some kind of... that, you're responsible as a writer for a children's show to have some kind of message in there. And I think that's what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
And they use the trickster as a mechanism for that.
Yeah. No, I think it does it really well, actually. Yeah. I'm going to say it does bring it home, and it's amazing, as adults we pick up on this stuff, but you'll be surprised how many kids will have watched this and sort of subconsciously sort of taken stuff like that in, not just with this story, but all the sort of stories, because you do, when you're a kid, you do sort of take on board these ideas without even realizing it. You know, it's what, as you grow up, it's what, you know, forms us, isn't it? It's we think, you know, we don't realize how much television impacts us on us, I don't think, you know, in terms of stuff like that. So, yeah, I think they do it well. I mean, I just thought the overall story was great. I just love the fact that it had a lot of twists as well. Like, so Maria is the only one that can remember, and then her dad, Alan, has that crazy trip out at the end of episode 1. That's pretty scary as well, I thought, for the way it's done. It's because he looks like he's in pain, really. It's a pretty full on for a kid's show. But then he starts to remember things and that. So I just love that it kept moving forward. I can honestly say, and it sounds like you're the same, there was no point in the story where I was bored. It really moved along at a cracking pace, especially episode 1. When it ended, I was like, blimey, straight on to episode 2. It just keeps sort of turning over, and there's plenty going on and loads of little twists and moments in it. It's very hard to fault it, actually, this story.
It is, mate. I'm finding it very difficult to pick out sort of poor or bad moments from the episode. I think, I really like the message it's trying to do. I like the timey-wiminess that was kept under control.
Yeah, it wasn't difficult to understand.
Yeah, because there was a moment when Maria realises that everyone else has forgotten who Sarah Jane is, her dad gets the photo album out. He's like, no, there was no one ever around called Sarah Jane, just Andrea, because he shows her the photographs. It's like, look, she came and helped us move in, and you know, it's her with the boxes and stuff. And then
that's right.
She also sees the pictures on her camera at the skateboarding park, and Sarah Jane's been replaced with Andrea. But then there's a bit later on where Maria's mum, Chrissy, because Alan is saying, our daughter Maria, don't you remember? You know, we've got a daughter, and Chris is like, I don't know what you're going on about, you know.
Yeah.
And then she gets the
Alan?
album out, and she shows the photos, and Maria's gone from those photos. So they've cleverly sort of doctored the photos for each moment in the story, but you understand it fully. It's not like a timey-wimey all over the place. Like, but Sarah Jane should be there, but she's not. But you know, it's very well done and controlled.
Yeah,
and it doesn't leave a footprint that sort of the rest of the series is hindered by. So once this episode's done, that's it. You don't have to worry about the timey-wiminess. It's all been put back to normal. And then you can just move on. Although
Alan now remembers that. So actually, I'm wondering if in the next episode, is he going to be part of the team? Because he's now seen aliens and things, hasn't he? So he's a bit like, all right, what's going on here then? which is like right at the very end, isn't it? So I'm wondering, actually, I mean, I really could have quite happily watched the next story. I only didn't because I want to keep it as a fresh for when we review it, because I haven't seen the next story either. So, but yeah, I did like that, because I was thinking, oh, that's good. They've brought another little person on board now or potentially, unless they wipe his memory or something. So that's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
It is. And I'm worried as well, because in the trailer for the next story, which is The Lost Boy, you can hear Alan Jackson saying, I don't want you to see Sarah Jane anymore. So I think he's worried about what he's seen and how Maria might be, you know, in potentially harm's way by knocking around with Sarah Jane. So so it's going to be really interesting how that pans out. So that's the only thing really that will affect everything else. But in terms of Sarah Jane's timeline, you know, that's all been put back together, you know, and on we go.
I sense Russell in the background there. I don't know about you. I sense Russell just plotting out. So by the end of the series, we've got the dad finds out about it. So that's another, he doesn't want to hang out. I can see him sort of plotting the series, you know, with these little ideas. Yeah. And it's great, actually, just these little moments. Yeah. It's
really cool. And they also threw in another mechanism, another plot mechanism as well, which also drives the story forward, which really helps which is this, the imminent sort of disaster element, so the meteorite that's crashing down. And in some other stories, that would be the main focus point, and that would be what, you know, builds up the suspense. But it's not until like the last half of the second episode that really kicks in, because it's kind of just in the background before, which is another clever way of this episode, how clever the script is. Because
it's like another underlying threat, isn't it? Just there.
Yeah. So it kind of kicks off. It's like at the very beginning, they're all sort of nonchalant about it. It's like, oh yeah, there's a meteor coming, but don't worry, Mr. Smith's just going to sort that out and we'll be on our way. And so they set that up at the beginning, which is cool, but then it kind of gets sidelined. So it's not like a big disaster story, like, the human race is in danger, although it is, they focus on the characters solely. And about the relationship with Sarah Jane and Maria and this Andrea Yates character, which we'll come on to. But I really liked how they merged those two together. So they kicked off with the meteorite, then they focused over to the story and the trickster and the sort of the moral compass, if you like, of the Andrea Yates character. And then they bring it back into the meteor story, and Sarah Jane just gets there in time, fires up Mr. Smith, and then it was done. So... yeah, love that about the story. It didn't focus on the meteorite, which it could have done. It could have been this big suspenseful, disaster movie type of vibe going on. But no, it was really character-based.
And when it was so close to hitting the earth as well, when she's like, come on, Mr. Smith, I really wanted to say, because he always has that big fanfare of music when he opens. I was like, no, we haven't got time for that, Mr. Smith. Just get out of here. Yeah. But no, I know what you mean, mate. The whole story just comes full circle, and it's by the end of it, it's very, very satisfying conclusion. Everything's, like you said. Also, it gets grounded into the Doctor Who universe again, because there's a great bit where the trickster's like, the Doctor, he brings the Doctor into it, doesn't he? Saying, "Oh yes, I'm gonna feed off all his adventures. He's gonna die," and all that. So that's good. So the Doctor's brought into it in a sort of, I was going to say subtle, but you know what I mean. It's not in your face, but it's enough to say, "Oh, the Doctor." There's a unit book as well. I noticed gets pushed aside. So all these little things to look out for, which I'm loving, because it's just there if you notice it, but it's not a big deal. So I'm loving all that stuff. But that was cool though, when he mentioned the Doctor and he was gonna, get all Sarah Jane's memories or whatever he was gonna do in a break. That was brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. And she kicks off, doesn't she? Yeah.
Big time. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some. So, in terms of story and direction, I can't really fault it, to be honest with you.
Very good, yeah.
Graham Harper just nails the tone and the pacing. It's all really well done. The script is brilliant. Gareth Roberts just does a brilliant job with the script. In terms of characters, then, the Andrea Yates character, played by Jane Asher. I thought her performance, and this goes back to many times when you and I have spoken about supporting cast members, that they either throw themselves into it 100% and make it a believable performance, or they have that sort of almost reserved performance because they're thinking, what is going on here? This is just nuts. Why have I agreed to star in this absolutely ridiculous thing? But I thought Jane Asher, she really did throw herself into it, because she's got the typical old sort of single woman, not happily married, because she's single, obviously, because she has a bit of a thing for Alan by the look of it.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But she's got that older woman, she's had a good life, she's now sort of settled a little bit and she's happy and comfortable. But then she goes from that to being really distraught and upset, to then being like really angry as well in the same scene.
Vicious and a bit scary.
Yeah, so towards the end where when they're sorting stuff out in the attic, she's almost snaps quite harshly at Maria, doesn't she? Maria,
and she banishes Maria off quite quickly, doesn't she? She's like, when the trickster says, "Oh, I can get rid of her," she's like, "Yeah, go on then."
Exactly.
She don't think about it for too long, does she? Yeah.
Yeah. So she's got that ruthless streak to her, but she does bounce between sort of being upset to angry to then sort of resolute. At the end, she's just, she's like, "Yeah, fine, get out of here," sort of thing, trickster. But did you think her performance was quite good? Because I bought into her performance. I thought she did really well.
Yeah, no, I thought she was great casting, mate, because she's got a good line between, she could sort of be humorous and really dark in the switch of in a switch. And I just thought it's always good when you get somebody who can do that very well. And I think she did. Yeah, so I thought she was great casting, actually. And she really fitted that role as well, because if you're going to replace Sarah Jane with somebody who's of the same sort of ilk. She's sort of got it, because she's still, she's a lady of a certain age, but she still looks really good, and she dresses really just like Liz Sladen. So I thought it was a really good sort of replacement for her. In terms of, and also a strong character as well, because Sarah Jane's very strong. So they sort of did like for like, didn't they, really? Yeah. But she's just sort of like not the evil version of Sarah Jane, because she's not really evil, but she's the more selfish, less moralistic version of Sarah Jane. So I thought she was great. Yeah, really good casting. I thought her performance was really good as well.
Yeah, like a well-known actress. She's been in lots of UK TV stuff, pretty well known. But yeah, I thought she performed that really well. She really gave herself she put herself into it.
I didn't know she was in it as well. So when she opened the door, I was a bit like, oh, that's, I know her. And I couldn't think of her name. And I was like, oh, yeah, Jane Asher, yeah. So that was a nice surprise as well, to just see her randomly. Because like you said, quite a well-known personality, really, to just suddenly pop up in a, in brackets, children's programme. So, yeah.
Little Jimmy V as the Grask.
Yes. Slightly overdoing it for me.
You read my mind again. Do you know?
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, you got to love him. Got to love a Grask. But he was a little. If I'm going to sort of knock half a point or whatever on my final score, I'm afraid it is because he's a little bit over the top. I think because the rest of the episode's done so seriously, and that doesn't mean it's not fun, because it is a fun episode as well, story even. But he's a little bit too. I think he's thinking, I'm in a kid's show, so I've got to be really silly. So, yeah, it's slightly let down by him. But as I said, you've got to love a Grask, so I'm not going to hold it against him.
Yeah, he wasn't too bad. But yeah, you read my mind.
He's not bad. He's not bad.
No, he was just a bit... because I thought the same thing. So when
OTT.
Yeah, when he came on, I was like, oh, yeah, this is the kiddie element. This is the scary little alien that's very menacing and almost has to be over the top, because... it needs to be a contrast to the human characters, so he needs to be, the very scary little. His eyes are scary. Yeah.
His eyes are scary, but I guess you know what? I guess kids would love it though, wouldn't they? Yeah. I've got I guess if I was a sort of 5 or 6 year old watching this, or however, I guess kids would love him. It's only because I'm an old git that I'm just like, no, he's being silly. He's doing a silly walk, and just say, yeah. But kids probably love him.
Yeah. What about the trickster then, played by Paul Mark Davis?
Fantastic. I tell you what, because they go really close up on his face, because he hasn't got much detail on his face, to be fair, but the mouth and teeth, and it's such a simplistic but brilliantly horrible design, isn't it? It's just a sort of hooded figure with no features apart from a mouth. It's very sinister. I like the trickster. I'm glad to hear that we'll be seeing them again. I mean, I don't know when or where, but yeah, I thought they were a good creation. Yeah,
he played the main sort of baddie, if you like, in series 1 of Class. Hold on, there was only one series, wasn't there? Sorry, Class. So who was the big sort of guy that was
the Shadowkin thing?
Yeah, what was his name? Carachanus, I think. Carachanus. Whatever it was. So he played that character. So he's popped up in Who related stuff. But
he plays it very well. I assume it's him doing the voice and everything as well then, because he is very creepy in it, especially the stuff going on in the mirror and all that. So
that was the main thing that I had noted down about him, was very creepy. Yeah, I thought they nailed that, because I would imagine very younger kids, are sort of 5, 6, 7. Would be quite freaked out by him. Yeah. He was very creepy. What about the parents then? Alan and Chrissy Jackson. We've touched on them already, but I thought Alan Jackson, I thought Joseph Milson, I thought his performance ramped up a bit for this one.
Yeah, I did as well, because again, I'm really starting to really get to know these people, and I'm really liking them. Even selfish old what's her name? The ex-wife,
Chrissy.
I'm even starting to warm towards Chrissy. But no, Alan, he's great actually. He's really good when he's with Maria. Like there's as I said, you do feel like they could be father and daughter. I think they really work well together, those two. But he gets more to do in this episode, and I think the actor, what's his name? What's Alan's?
Joseph Milson.
Joseph Milson. He really steps up to the plate, I think. It's as if he's like read the script and thought, yeah, man, God, look what I get to do in this story. I'm really going for it. And he does it well. I think he's really good in it. He slightly reminds me of, like how Arthur Darvill's so good at playing Rory, at playing the sort of comical and the likeable and also the action.
All right.
Alan reminds me a little bit of that, because I could at times find him really funny, but he's just overall really likeable. So I'm glad he's sort of stepped up to the plate and been given more to do and brought into the story more. I think he's really good, actually.
Yep, I agree, mate. I thought it's totally believable as Maria's dad. To those two, they work so well together. And I just thought his performance in this one was really like the best of both ends of the spectrum, because he does play the light-hearted, because at the beginning he shows off his skateboarding skills a little bit. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, she's embarrassed.
Yeah, and it's all cool and light-hearted and fluffy. And but then he sort of travels from one end of the spectrum to the other really successfully. So at the midpoint, he goes to worry. So he's really worried about Maria, because he thinks, is she going mad? Has she got some sort of mental illness? He wants to take her to a doctor and all the rest of it.
That's right.
And then he transfers into that real kind of, dad that's out to rescue his daughter sort of thing. And, when he confronts Andrea Yates and...
That's good.
You know, and he's not messing around and he really wants to just sort it out. He really... Yeah, I just thought his range was really cool.
And also it's nice the fact that they bring the skateboarding into it at the end as well, isn't it? Because I didn't sort of see that coming. I thought, that's cool. They brought that. There was a reason to it rather than just him being an embarrassing dad. They actually use it for him to. Does he knock the grass over or something? I can't remember. But he suddenly turns up on a skateboard at the end. I thought, that's very cool.
Yeah, very cool. And what about? We don't need to talk about Mr. Smith, do we? Alexander Armstrong. He only has a couple of lines. It's fairly. We've already established he's fairly good as the voice of as Mr. Smith. Luke Smith.
Hardly in it
at the beginning and at the end.
Yeah.
Don't know what he was up to. Maybe doing his exams or something.
Probably.
Tommy night, yeah. The same with Clyde. He's in it a bit more, but he's not really... He features at the beginning when Maria's calling him. And then he shows up at the end for some random reason. He's there at Andrea Yates' birthday party.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even realised that. Yeah, he is there, isn't he? Because when the meteors come in, he's getting all worried. But, why is he there? I don't know.
There's probably a little bit in there that we've overlooked as to why he's there. But, yeah. But fairly good. Fairly good performance from him.
Yeah, he's quite funny at being the sort of cocky lad. What are you ringing me for? What date do you? Sort of thing. He's quite good at that sort of stuff, yeah.
But the two sort of main sort of stars of the show, if you like, was Maria Jackson and Sarah Jane. So what did you reckon then? Yasmin Page?
Yeah, I think she does well, actually, because I've sort of been worried about her a little bit, thinking she seems to have she's not been as strong in terms of the acting as the rest of the cast in the previous stories, I suppose.
Right.
She's been good, she's been consistent, but the others have sort of outshined her a little bit. But she really steps up to the plate in this one. I thought she gets an awful lot to do in episode 1, and she does it really, really well. So for me, I thought she was great, and she's very good with Liz Sladen. The two of them together have a great chemistry. So I thought actually they're both very good. I mean, Liz Sladen's just so consistently brilliant anyway in this. So, but they work very well together. They seem to really bounce off each other in terms of giving a good performance. So, they're both really good, I thought, in this. Yeah.
Absolutely, mate. Very, very good. The thing I liked about Yasmin Page's performance in this one was her sheer determination. So I know it was written that way, but you could really see like she was sort of just had this grit about her, and she wasn't going to let anybody stop her from solving the case, as it were.
Yeah.
Not even her own dad, anybody. She knew in her heart of hearts that Sarah Jane did exist, and she was a real person, and she was going to sort this out no matter what. And I love that about her, just that determination and that grit and, she was really up for it.
She gets a bit of an Eccleston speech at one point, actually, doesn't she? She's like, I'm going to find Sarah Jane, I'm going to change everything back. And it reminded me of the Doctor at the end of Bad Wolf, where he's like, I'm coming to get you, Rose, I'm going to sort out the Doctor. I said, oh yeah, she's got an Eccleston speech. And again, she does it well. And when I say she's sort of got lost a little bit because of the others, I just think the others have been stronger in terms of what they got to do in their performance. Whereas this one, I've really started to like Maria. I've liked her before, but I really liked her in this. I'm sort of much more on board with her character after this episode, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So I thought, along with you, mate, I thought she was really strong in this one. And then Liz Sladen, she was, she's so good in this.
She's
so good.
Consistent.
Because they remove her from her sort of investigative ways, if you like, that we've seen in the previous stories. And although she is in distress, she has been kidnapped, for the want of a better word. She's there in sort of outside of her timeline, and nobody else can rescue her other than Maria, because Maria is the only one who's not been affected by the mind wipe, if you like.
Yeah.
And so she's in distress in a way, but she kind of takes charge. She's got this authority about her, which is great, because there's a bit in episode 2 where the trickster calls her name and she's like, oh, I'm being summoned. And as soon as she walks up to the trickster, there's no messing around. She's not intimidated. She's not scared or anything. And that then just transfers to the rest of the story. So when she's in the mirror, although she's not intimidated by the trickster, she's just, heartbroken that she hasn't got the control to fix it herself. So she's pleading with Andrea, So I thought her performance again it's all about range for me, this story. The characters just show great amounts of range, from happy to angry to sad to distraught. It's just so good. And Liz Sladen's just, she's up there. I welled up a couple of times when she was desperate to get back, and that bit where the trickster says he's going after the Doctor and she's yelling at the top of her voice like, don't you dare, don't you dare, because she's got such feeling obviously for the Doctor.
I thought of Pertwee. It's weird, isn't it? Because I know she travelled a lot more with Tom, but when she's so upset about the fact he's clicked onto the Doctor, and she's like, no, you leave him alone. I was just thinking, because there's such a bond between Sarah Jane and the Doctor, and it just reinforces that it's totally the same character, doesn't it? All this time later,
Absolutely, mate.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to say that we liked all of the characters.
I was going to say, I'm not overstruck on the young Sarah Jane. I don't know, Jessica Ashworth.
Oh, of course.
I was going to say, if I'm going to, because we've been very positive about this episode, and rightly so. If I'm going to sort of nitpick and sort of explain away my score at the end, they're fine and they do their job perfectly well. But out of the two of them, I think the young Jessica Ashworth as Sarah Jane, the young Sarah Jane, she's a little bit. She's not the best actress, if you know what I mean. Whereas I think the young Andrea is better. Cause,
yes.
Yeah. As I said, neither of them are particularly bad. But yeah, the young Sarah Jane, she's a little bit, sort of child actorish.
Right.
Yeah. But again, they're still very good for what they get to do.
Yeah.
And also, the scene where young Sarah Jane's dangling from the pier. That was pretty well done, wasn't it? Because I was looking at that thinking, well, hang on, I'm assuming we're on a green screen or something here, but I am right, aren't I? That did look really good, didn't it? I was just like really looking at it thinking, because sometimes I think something looks good and someone's like, well, clearly it's a soundstage. But I was looking at that thinking, not quite sure how I don't know if that pier's a bit of set or if they've filmed the pier and they've superimposed. I'm not sure how they did it, but to me, it looked pretty good. The bit where they were both dangling from that pier, and when she falls in it, I just don't know. I mean, presumably really she wasn't really hanging from that pier.
I don't believe so. I mean, I think some of it was practical. I think there was.
Don't know, but it was good. I mean, my partner fan was like, well, she's probably standing on the bit to the left. And I was thinking, well, maybe they took out the flooring. I don't know, but it was well done.
Really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just another little extra bit that shows the quality of TV making. You know, when you get it right, when you've got a decent director, and you can set these things up correctly.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Yes. Did you think the little puzzle box looked a bit like the Siege Mode TARDIS as well?
I thought it was to begin with.
I did. I was like, is that the... No.
Yeah.
Also, it does look like the puzzle box from Hellraiser as well. Is it? Yeah, as well. But I did. I thought it was the Siege Mode TARDIS at first.
Literally, just for a few seconds, I thought is that it? And then when you saw it closer up, you thought, oh no, it just looks similar.
Yeah.
Anything you want to mention, mate, before we lock in our scores?
No, I think that's it for me, mate. I think we've covered it.
Right. It's
you, I think, to go.
Yeah. So this is a pretty easy one for me. I love this episode. I'm going to give it a 9.
A 9?
Yeah.
A 9. Yep. I'm going to join you.
Are you?
Yes, wow. I am. I'm giving it a 9 because I'm only really knocking off. I mean, as I said earlier in the review, there isn't much to fault, I don't think. I think it's a strong story. I think the performances are very good. It nips along at a great pace and it's satisfying by the end of it. So it's it's a 9 because the only reason I'm knocking off a point really is because I found the Grask a bit childish. It kind of took me a little bit out of the story, I suppose, just for a second, but it's still likable. And I thought the actress playing Sarah Jane as the younger version was a bit naff. But so it's not quite a 10, but it's definitely a 9.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Yeah, same reasons for me. I thought it's the direction, the script, and the performances. Which you can probably argue, I mean, that encapsulates most TV shows or films. But I just thought all three of them were just running like clockwork from start to finish. Yeah.
And also, it's making me think we're still in series 1. I'm thinking, God, wow, like you said earlier, like they're going to have to sort of up their game to keep the quality, I think, which I hope they do. But I'm thinking, if this is a 9, what have we got to come?
Exactly.
I think I say this every time we do a Sarah Jane, but I can't wait to watch more. I literally, every time we finish one, I just want to watch them all.
It's a good... it's been a really good journey so far. And I think
it really has, actually, yeah.
The fact that we haven't seen some of these before is sort of watching it with fresh eyes is really cool. Oh,
definitely. And as I've said to you before, it just reminds me of the quality shows we got when we were kids, because we're of a similar-ish age, and we had some great TV growing up, and it's because it's got content. It's not throwaway, childish TV that, there is a lot of out there. It's got more to it. It just is, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah.
Absolutely, mate. What did our listeners think? Let's go through some of these. We did get an audio review in. This is our regular reviewer, Sammy Satine from Down Under.
G'day, Gary and Adam. Sammy Satine here. So, whatever happened to Sarah Jane? Quite dark for a kid's show. It's a strong story, but I'm not sure how to feel about this one. The Trickster is a brilliant villain, and you can see why he kept recurring. I still think he should turn up in Doctor Who someday. Get on it, Chibbers! I'm not sure if I'm meant to like Andrea or not. Anyway, see ya!
Thank you, Sammy.
Thanks, Sammy. I think Andrea's a flawed character. I think that's the thing, because I did like her, but also she's a bit very selfish, but she's just one of those flawed characters, I think.
Yes. Yeah. We did get some mentions in on Twitter. One of our writers, Jordan, said, probably the best story from Series 1 and one of the best stories from the series as a whole.
Oh, okay.
The Trickster is an excellent villain, and his appearance in the next series is just as excellent. It's a shame he never appeared in Doctor Who proper. Silent Nerd, C137. The story is a great debut for the Trickster, and it's interesting to find out about Sarah Jane's past accident. One of the standouts for me is Alan Jackson, who gets to be the main character for the second part. It's definitely the best episode of Series 1. He gives it a 9 out of 10.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Ash Prosser. Whatever happened to Sarah Jane continues the Whoniverse's tradition of great penultimate stories, a great performance by the cast, and Doctor Who legend Paul Mark Davis is superb as the Trickster. Highly rewatchable, 8 out of 10.
Very rewatchable, yeah.
It is, isn't it? And I think we had one more tweet. Where are we? I should get these in order, shouldn't I, before we do it? Where are we? No, that was it for Twitter. Over on Facebook, Dean Jones says, like the rest of the series, this is the first time I've watched it and it was great. The story is engaging and towards the end really tragic too. Cast are all solid as usual, but Jane Asher is terrific as Andrea Yates, and I really like the trickster. He gave it a 9 out of 10.
Oh, same as us.
Joseph Howarth, love this episode. It's that good, I'm telling you. The trickster is one of my favourite enemies from Sarah Jane, and this two-parter is just fantastic. One of my personal favourites, and I can't recommend it enough. 9 out of 10.
Another 9, yes.
Lewis Palmer, absolutely amazing. One of the very best of the whole show. I saw a cloaked man on a dark street in my dreams for weeks after seeing this story. It terrified me. This is the first time SJA goes deeper and darker with the characters we know and love, and it works like a treat. Lines like, I've been dead for 40 years, send chills down my spine every single time. It's also nice that SJA is prepared to explore the backstory, as it's quite a haunting revelation. This kicks off the Trickster trilogy in style and cements the series as a deeper show than it initially seems. 9.5.
A Trickster trilogy. Oh, wicked. I didn't even know we had a Trickster trilogy, but I'm liking that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Charlie Turner says, best of series 1, hands down a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
And
Cheers,
lastly, Rob Kelly says, oh, this is a good one of my favourites, 9 out of 10.
Another 9, yes.
Another
Excellent.
9.
We're all on the same page, no negatives.
Do you know what? I think, this is, it's a consistent 9/10 out of 10, this one. I'm so happy we're going through these Sarah Jane adventures. It's
I'll tell you what,
it's really cool.
So am I. I'm loving it. Yeah.
It's very, very cool. Yeah. Next week, we're back to classic Doctor Who.
Yes.
What have we got next week?
Next week, a bit of Fifth Doctor action. Yeah, Fifth Doctor. We haven't seen him for a while, have we? So it's Snakedance next week.
Snakedance, one I haven't seen for quite a while.
Tegan's in it.
A little bit.
Fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah.
She is in it, isn't she? Yeah, she must be.
Yeah. Snakedance, then.
Yes.
That'll be interesting.
That will be good.
Indeed. And I think we're going to do that, buddy, for 196.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sticking with us throughout 196. A bit of a long episode, this one, but we did have quite a bit to talk through.
Yes.
From San Diego. So lots of cool stuff from there. It's great having lots of cool Doctor Who news. I think it's gonna quieten down a bit now. So now that Comic-Con's out the way, because they're still filming, they've got a couple of weeks left to do all that stuff. I think it's going to slowly quiet down, and then it's going to ramp up a little bit as we get towards the start of the series. But it's great to have lots of cool stuff to talk through and a bit of an insight into our new Doctor and the new series and stuff. But also great that it's all on lockdown and we're going to experience it all together.
Yes, absolutely.
Indeed. So next week, the Fifth Doctor, Snakedance.
Snakedance, yeah.
You'll get your DVDs out, get it watched. Get it watched, because we'll be asking for your reviews and stuff as always. In the meantime, head over to the website www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of our previous shows on there, and it's got buttons to link off to our social stuff, so you can chat to us. During the week we chat lots of Doctor Who on there, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. And there's also buttons to go off to the podcast directories, so if you want to give us a subscribe, so that every Friday it just drops in nicely and you can give us a listen, you don't miss a show. iTunes is the big one if you're a listener on there. If you could spare a minute for a review and a rating, that would be awesome, because that really helps us out lots and lots. Also check out Adam's channel over on YouTube. It's not the big handbag, is it?
No, it's the Geeks handbag.
Yes.
The big Geeks handbag.
Go over to Adam's channel on YouTube, the Geeks handbag.
Yeah, working on some great new vids at the minute, actually. Got 2 or 3 in the fire. I've got a few in the fire.
Oh, nice.
Getting ready to do them, yeah.
You won't be disappointed. So many good videos on Adam's channel. Give him a subscribe. And he's also on the usuals, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that. Just give us a sub. Give us a like. Honestly, we chat so much waffle about Who throughout the week. Until next week for 197. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember... Allons-y.